Mark Mangino still goes to the Kansas office every time he takes a shit so that he could take a shower immediately afterward. He would used to knock Les Miles out of the way and be like, just come thundering in to use the shower.
What would be the alternate technique if you couldn't reach back there? Would you have to like put like a wipe on a pole or something?
A pole?
What? I mean, a shower, no? Like, that's what I'm saying. He had to shower to wash his ass.
There should be some sort of invention, though. It can't just be a straight pole. It's got to be a curvy pole that you could just kind of wrap around. A
selfie stick?
Yeah.
Or a bidet.
Yeah.
It's been around for a while.
Or a wet towel. The former Strikers coach, Gore Vanderhart, an old Dutchman, used to wipe his ass.
How do you know
with
this?
A towel, because back in that day.
The last time your dad did any reporting was when he was
last time he asked any questions.
That locker room.
A question.
Listen, after a Strikers game, Gore Vanderhart would be nude while giving the post-game press conference, and he would take a towel and go back and forth like this on his ass.
He would floss. He would floss it right underneath, right between the legs. He would floss.
God rest his soul, by the way, Gore. Rotten to the core, said the sign when they wanted him out. That's a quick aside. I got another aside, by the way. Oh, I don't even know if we're recording or not. I never know.
Doesn't matter.
But
Keep aside.
Anybody in the room heard of Cuba Gooding?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
No,
Okay.
no.
I know. I'm more familiar with his son.
Yeah. Well, Cuba Gooding Jr., of course. Cuba's dad died of very strange circumstances 2 or 3 years ago. You could look that up. And here's the thing. Cuba Gooding Sr. Was a famous singer in the 1970s whose group, The Main Ingredient, had a huge hit with Everybody Plays the Fool. And that was Cuba Gooding Sr.'s voice on that song.
What does that have to do with what we were talking
It's an
about?
aside. It's an aside. He
man.
said an aside.
But what does it have
When
to
you
do?
said a quick aside, I thought it was like tangentially related to what
No.
you were
It's a
discussing.
side of
That's
what?
not what
It's a
aside
non-sequitur.
is.
An aside has to be about what you were talking about. It's not
No,
just
it does
something
not.
that
No, it does not.
Completely off to the side.
An
Thank you.
aside, no, it doesn't have to be completely off to the side. It has to be adjacent. It has to have some sort of.
That's an aside. I think it's an aside.
It is an aside.
No, it's
More
an
like a tangent. It sounds like
It's an unrelated note. It's
Thank
an
you.
unrelated note. It's not an
A
aside.
tangent. Roy's
Right.
got it right when he says it's a tangent. If you're just going to say something that doesn't have anything to do whatsoever with what it is that came before it.
I lead the league in non sequiturs.
basic trigonometry there. It's a tangent.
Thank you, Roy.
You're
Greg.
welcome.
Chris Whittingham has done the useless sound montage for Billy Gill. I don't know if this is
Wow.
sacrilege. This is him kneeling humbly at the altar created by a vacationing Billy Gill and trying to give you people the thing that you crave, even if it has to be a little diluted because Peaky Blinders back there doesn't quite have the same ear for cliche and useless sound that Billy Gill does.
Downton Abbey.
Let's go ahead and play the useless sound montage.
It's a game of inches. You saw the Al Pacino speech and then given Sunday, right? There you go. That's football.
Good, bad, indifferent, whatever it is, and that whole football game comes down to one play at the end.
We got to make more plays, got to take advantage of the opportunities in front of us, and got to make sure that we capitalize on opportunities.
Our job for our quarterback is to get us in the end zone.
We feel like we're not playing our best football. We have spurts where we're really good, and then we have spurts where we kind of have these we're not scoring. We're not finding ways to finish drives. So definitely as a competitor, you want to be better.
Thought we did a lot of good things offensively. That drive at the end of the first half was really good. We just didn't finish it.
It's part of being a backup quarterback. You got to stay prepared and be ready for whenever your number gets called.
You win football games at the end of the day.
If you're results-oriented all the time, then you're just looking at the scoreboard, you're spending your life up there. So there's a process to what we try to do. There's a process to improving every day.
We're all dialed in, stayed zoned in on what the task was. Nobody blinked. That's why I think we were able to win this game.
Field goals, they're not going to win you games. You got to get touchdowns.
Appreciative of the Ravens, man. It takes two to tango. They bring the best out in us.
Saw the attitude. I watch these guys come out to practice, and they're 100 miles an hour.
We have a saying in there, man, not too high, not too low. Man of wisdom avoids all extremes. Have some fun, enjoy yourself, get some rest, but use good hygiene, do all those things. Just be a smart and, do the right thing.
Difficult loss, bit of a tale of two halves. Dug ourselves a hole early.
Those moments, it gets thick. We don't need to be discovering ourselves and figuring out what we need to run at those moments. And so they can communicate and do the things that you need them to do when that air gets thick.
There's no flinch. It's the NFL. The teams are good. They're going to come back and they're going to do everything they can to get back in the game, and we have to do our best to limit that.
Marvelous job of just hanging.
Everyone in there is resilient. Everyone in there is a warrior.
It is what it is. It's good to come on the road, play in these environment, and against a tough team and get a win.
Horrific by me. Horrific. Coming out of a timeout and then having to take a delayed game, and then we missed the extra point on top of that. So that was all on me.
I wish I had all the answers and I'd give them to you. I don't know the answers other than that you're going to keep swinging and keep working together.
Obviously, if we knew the answer, we'd be doing it.
How do you find answers? You go to work, and we're going to go back to work. I don't mean to be redundant in coach speak, but there's nothing else I can tell you.
Honestly, when it's December, everything kind of feels like a playoff game.
Hell yeah, man! It's awesome, dude. We got great fans here. Every time we travel, man, they show up, show out.
Once it's December, it's go time.
Yeah, dude. That's why I wear short shorts. Them legs, bro. Like, phew.
Last week was last week. This week was this week. Next week will be next week.
Damn right.
I think Minshew is
He's back.
I think Minshew is a bit of an airhead, and it's okay.
He is so Uncle Rico.
I also need to know who was advocating for good hygiene nonsensically as
the
an
old saying?
It was
aside.
Frank Reich, I believe.
Frank Reich,
Yeah.
he was like, we have a saying. And then there was 8 things that were part of the saying, including being good at hygiene.
How about Fangs loving that 11-minute drive that produced 0 points?
I thought that was Fangs too, but it was not Fangs.
What?
It was Fangs.
Yes!
Oh, was it? Oh, because I thought it was that Rob Bisaccia dude who...
That was scoreboard watching.
Really good job, Witty. For your maiden voyage on the Useless Sound montage, that was quite good.
How did you feel about it, Whittingham? How did you feel about going into the dungeon where that crud resides? How many hours did you spend slogging through it?
Couple hours. Last night, I sent some of it to Chris and Roy, and then I got to cutting, and I kind of was addicted to it by the end. I was like, I really want to get to this useless stuff. I left one on the cutting room floor. I labeled it in my computer as Matthew Stafford says absolutely nothing. And it was like, and you're like, Eureka! Fantastic. I love the fact that he said absolutely nothing. It's the complete opposite way that I've ever cut sound.
It is. Can you also, by the way, you were reading during the break, you were simply reading about Al Golden, the details about the manual that Al Golden put in front of the staff or in front of the people making the hire at the University of Miami to convince them that Al Golden was the future at UM, that their future was golden.
I love this because I imagine you've sat in these interviews before, Dan, which is the first time the new head coach sits down with the local columnist, and the local columnist has to mine for an anecdote. And so here it is. On the desk, the 300-page spiral-bound book he took to his interview with Miami Athletic Director Kirby Hocutt. The book is printed in Miami's colors, says "Deserve Victory" on the cover, and under that, the pillars of performance with a picture of the Greek Parthenon. On the pillar are words like discipline and work.
That is how Al Golden got hired, and he gave great coach. He gave great press conference. You could absolutely fool Stugotz for the rest of time just with someone who looks the part as a coach.
No doubt.
Unfortunately, one of those pillars also said Mark D'Onofrio.
Stugotz was talking about how, and we've talked about this before, how it is that Pat Riley gives off a presidential that Joe Philbin does not before you've gotten to the results. But Cristobal is stretched out weight room Manny Diaz. Like he's not, he's stretched out, he's thicker, he's bigger, he looks more like football than Manny Diaz.
No question.
For sure.
But I would also tell you, like Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame is very excited about that, and he's a handsome guy, and he gives off great coach, and his press conference was fantastic. But if he looked like, take away the last name, if he looked like Steve Belichick, you would not be nearly as excited for your new head coach at Notre Dame. You wouldn't.
Put it on the poll, please, Chris Cote. Would you hire someone with Bill Belichick's resume if they looked like Steve Belichick?
Just make him Steve.
That game last night. What did you call it, Chris Cote, when I walked in here today by way of saying hello to me? He said something along the lines of the classic game where you can't tell shit about either team, but we're just going to have some fun out there at the top
you
of
don't
the
learn
standings.
shit, but let's just have some fun.
It's just, and do you think that was fun for Belichick throwing the ball 3 times in that game?
I enjoyed watching that game. I love it when there's a pitch to a running back and you don't know if he's going to catch the ball or not.
That game meant something to Belichick from this standpoint, Dan. He was so happy afterwards. He was hugging his son. He was hugging his head coaches. The reaction to winning that game was unlike any reaction I've seen from Belichick, and that includes after he wins Super Bowls.
This is what I wanted to ask you guys, because I do believe that you've heard me talk before about what a great frustration it must be to the average coach to be a control freak and then things start and you don't actually have much of the control. You control your timeouts and some of the strategy, but how guys execute, you could practice all week, and it must be an exasperation to be a control freak who doesn't have that much control. But Belichick got to control it last night.
Yes.
Like, he got to play the game that he's wanted to play all his life, where we could watch him win, and we're like, wow, this is all just smarts and maneuvering, and I'm not going to put my quarterback in a bad position. I'm going to quote generals after the game saying you just keep attacking weaknesses. It's the art of war.
With this New England Patriot team in particular, everyone likes to heap praise upon Bill Belichick. And that was happening again last night. That is a coaching victory. Well, Bills coach Sean McDermott issues pause.
Let's not give more credit than we need to give credit to Bill Belichick in this one. It was, whether it's Bill or anybody else, they beat us, right? You sit here and you tell me when we start with the average starting field position of the 40-yard line and he starts with the 23-yard line, and I'm rounding up in both cases, and we were 1 for 4 in the red zone, and they were 0 for 1 in the red zone, you give me that ahead of time, I'm saying I like my chances. So it's not, I don't think, with all due respect, it's not a Bill Belichick type thing. It's what are you doing with the opportunities you got? We turned the ball over at the plus 30-some yard line, sloppy football. I'm very comfortable in that situation.
So there you have it. It's not a Bill Belichick is great thing. It's a Sean McDermott suck last night thing.
Sean McDermott sounds like a sore loser there, by the way. Bill Belichick right now is the NFL Coach of the Year. It's amazing what he's done with a rookie quarterback, and last night in insulating the rookie quarterback. It's brilliant. Nobody expected this was supposed to be Buffalo's time. Nobody expected the Patriots, after one down year, to be this team.
That's how you win Coach of the Year. Nobody expected. Just start there.
Have zero expectations, yes.
What he's saying is that they won the field position battle. They got into the red zone more. So, like, they screwed up at crucial times, but overall, like, they played better.
Isn't that a mark of good coaching, though?
I don't think so.
I would say that this is
I think it's more random when you get in the red. Like, you know, if we played that game again tonight, the Bills might do better in the red zone.
He's blaming his players there, though, is what he's doing.
I think he is, actually.
Yeah.
He's calling out his players.
Call better red zone plays that work.
I mean, you could do that argument with every play. Like, so every touchdown is the coach's call.
Yes.
Like, it's a 50-50 thing at least, right? I mean, it's
that math isn't accurate, but McDermott is saying there, hey, let's not make it about, because Belichick is that happy because he's looking around and is like,
he beat the Bills.
Well, yes, he's in first place. Look at how we won. We won on the road. Division games still matter. And look at how we won. If you're going to they asked McDermott after the game about credit. And he's like, let's not make it a credit Belichick thing, which is exactly what we will do when a Belichick wins and we can't credit the quarterback, which we couldn't do last night because he didn't let the quarterback do anything.
How about we credit the defense
Stugotz,
or the offensive line?
Stugotz came in here accurately when he said, I could have played Mac Jones's position last night.
I could have. I mean, I feel like I was more active than Mac Jones was last night. I did more. I walked my dog around the block. That's like a mile. I mean, I moved more than Mac Jones did last night. But I wonder how Mac Jones experiences that. I do wonder. Like, Bill Belichick hit his quarterback for a night.
Well, but it's the weather forced it. It's not. It's not because he doesn't trust his quarterback. He didn't trust the elements. I can't blame him for not trusting the elements. But I'm with Chris Cote on this portion of it, and I'm glad to hear a coach speak honestly on, man. Even though it's going to be headlines, why don't you give Belichick credit? Give him more credit. You're only giving him 3% credit, and you need to give him 96% credit. When that's not how these people tend to function. Even though credit seeking is a human thing. I am with Chris on this part of it, and you've got to score and you've got to win the game, but that could have been a 31-14 game if the Bills had done some of what they would normally do by probabilities in the red zone.
If Dawson Knox could catch the flipping ball, I almost said the F word. I'm going to say it. If he can only catch the fucking ball.
Yeah, the Bills, huh?
Then you said it. You didn't say it, and then you said flipping.
I realized I could.
You got caught up in the air.
I didn't want to realize I could, so I did.
Belichick obviously caught wind of what McDermott said because on his morning show on WEEI this morning, they asked him how he was feeling, and he said he felt run down. And the host started cracking up. It was a total shock.
I had Dawson Knox over yards. 29 yards, I feel like. But I booked that bet before I saw how bad the weather was. But I'm like, I think it was lowered because of that 29 yards.
Last night was the classic. You got to check the weather before you put bets in.
I saw some guy hit a parlay. It was like $50 to win 20 grand. It was all the unders. It was literally the under on like every single prop you could have done, and he hit it.
Yeah, exactly. That was a classic under game. 50-mile-per-hour gusts. Nah, man, nobody's going to score.
The pictures of the stadium after the game looked post-apocalyptic. It looked terrifying to leave that stadium.
Did you see the clip of Booger McFarlane being knocked over by the wind pregame? The ESPN pregame show, they were all on these like bar stools, and the gust blew Adam Schefter off his chair. But even Booger McFarlane like had to catch himself. It was insane.
So that is the game that you get last night as the Patriots are again at the top of the standings. And you also heard after the game, Stugotz, I think it was
I thought, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I thought it was curious that Sean McDermott omitted in his stats that he rattled off 222 rushing yards from New England.
Right.
That's kind of the whole deal.
When you know what's coming.
When it became pretty apparent, they started the game with 10 runs. I understand being confused at the start of the game because you're still expecting them to pass. Well, they're not going to be the Air Force offense all day. They're going to pass, and they just keep handing it off and handing it off and handing it off. But after the game, Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, the Bills safeties, were being asked about whether they were embarrassed about that, Mike, that stat of just they didn't have to throw. They just kept running at you. And both of them said in a irritated and sort of threatening fashion, I'm going to remember that.
Those guys are good quotes.
We're going to remember that, which is what you do when you've been embarrassed.
Right. Did he remember? We're going to remember the guy who asked the question, or we're going to remember the Patriots?
No, he meant the question. He didn't like the question of. They were both like, what kind of question is that? Are we embarrassed by this? They were mad at the questioner, not at the performance. Or, well, actually, they were probably mad at the performance and took it out on the questioner.
Right, exactly.
But it is embarrassing, is it not? It is embarrassing for the Bills to lose that way to that team at home in the division playing, 20 years the Patriots have won that game on you. 20 years. You went 17 years without making the playoffs in Buffalo. You have a quarterback. Josh Allen is a quarterback who puts you in games, and here the Buffalo Bills find themselves again in the standings a year behind. Again, they find themselves in the standings behind the New England Patriots that have dominated that division for 2 decades.
That's an excellent point by Stugotz. This was supposed to be Buffalo's time, not just in that division, but in the AFC, especially early on when they went into Arrowhead and beat up the Kansas City Chiefs. This is a real step back for Sean McDermott and that Bills program.
They're flirting with not making the playoffs right now. I mean, they really are.
But can we just make last night, though, Do we have to make it mean something? Can it just be random ball in the snow?
Well,
like,
it does mean something for the
means a
AFC
lot.
playoff chase.
No, I don't mean in terms of stakes. Obviously,
In terms of evaluation.
I'm talking about measurements. Obviously, in terms of stakes, it was an enormous game. But can we say that we can't say this is supposed to be the years for the Bills and hey, go win in a crazy snowstorm that's blowing Booger McFarlane off. Like you can't make any assessments off that game.
I would say, like, I saw a tweet floating around last night from Mac Jones saying that he had never been in the snow. This is like 4 or 5 years ago. So this is a guy, if we learned anything, maybe we learned that Mac Jones won't be a guy that's great in cold weather games. Maybe that's the only thing we learned.
Well, maybe you can extrapolate, that's a concern as the season wears on. But anytime you have two teams that are kind of close to each other, which I think entering that game we did, and you introduce 50-mile-per-hour gusts, I think you're kind of playing a little random ball at that point, and who's better at executing what works well in this game comes into play.
But to McDermott's point, Dan, I think that's what he was trying to say. Hey, we had plenty of opportunities. We let that game get away. And they did. They drove down the length of the field plenty of times, and they turned it over just about every time.
But weird things happen in 50-mile-an-hour winds. I just don't know how many extrapolations. Maybe you can make an extrapolation like, well, if the Patriots have to see Buffalo again down the line, they're certainly not going to be afraid to run against them. Or Belichick's telling you, after the game, he's saying flatly, in the art of war, you attack weaknesses. So what was he saying? Their weakness is going to be, I'm going to be able to run on them. I'm going to keep trying to run on them. I'm going to feel good about my chances. Offensive linemen tell you this all the time. When a coach keeps calling running plays and they're physically handling another team in a way that makes them feel good about football, it's the football offensive linemen most want to play. They don't want to actually be trying to block Myles Garrett coming around the edge. They want to trample. They want to eat all week. They want to just shovel bowls of cereal in their face and get out there Sunday, start farting and just pushing straight ahead and blocking. Maybe you can take that from, hey, the team that we've been playing in the division who wants our division. It's kind of like what happened with Alabama and Georgia. Not yet. Not now.
Right.
Not yet. Not your time yet. It's not just that the Patriots beat them. They beat them with physical football. They beat them with, here's what's coming the entire game, and we're going to beat you anyway. But I don't think that you can make any measurement extrapolations off of that. You just sort of throw up your hands and say, either one of those teams could have ended up winning by 3 points if something different happens in the snow.
I think, but you can say that about 90% of NFL results. In this case, I think the weather is not an excuse. You're talking about a December game between two teams from the Northeast who play outdoors, who are not used to this extreme in weather, but used to adverse conditions. I think it was a perfect barometer that New England is still the king.
It was just surprising because the Bills have given up 107 yards on the ground per game this year. It was a lot less headed into last night. Okay, so they're factoring in last night. They were really good against the rush. And to have a team that is rushing the ball every single play and you know it's coming and not being able to stop it, that was a bit jarring.
I wouldn't say not be able to stop it. They scored 14 points. They had the ball and they were able to run the ball. I can't believe you're saying here, Cote, you think this is – I'm sitting here saying you can't measure off of that thing, and you're saying perfect extrapolation. Right. What extrapolation are you making from that?
The extrapolation I'm making is that these are two very good defenses, but one's better than the other one. Buffalo, it isn't just Josh Allen. Buffalo's been winning with defense. Last night, and in transparency, I didn't watch the game. I was at a concert. I watched the last 3 minutes. But last night, they win with defense. New England is great on defense. And that's accurate. Defense doesn't care about the weather. The passing game does. Defense doesn't give a shit about the weather. Defense excels in that kind of weather.
Put it on the poll, Chris. Does defense give a shit about the weather?
What concert you go to? Just that.
Well, as if there was any doubt about how old I am, we went to see a twin bill between the Temptations and the Four Tops.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Seminole Coconut Creek? I mean.
No, it was at the Broward Center of the Performing Arts. By the way, they're both four-man groups right now. There's one remaining original top and one remaining original temp for those keeping score at home. They're both in their 80s. The 80-year-old temp looks fantastic. From where I was sitting, he looked like he was about 60. He was great. But what an old crowd. My wife and I felt like spring chickens in that audience. We were pecking around like spring chickens. Everybody looked like they were 90. I only looked like I was 80, so I had a leg up. Great concert. Fantastic show.
You found a place where there are people older than you.
That's what I do now. That's why I went to the Monkees concert a couple of months ago. Can I tell you? You get to be my age, you look for old crowds to make you feel better. And they're harder and harder to find, by the way. That kind of thing.
I gotta pay up. Anytime he invokes some monkeys, he does that hey with a hey.
Oh yeah.
Every time he does it. Every time. Yes. I want more information about that. It is a really fossilized concert that
Yeah, it was.
that makes me a little sad the way that you described it, not just the audience, but that one of the Temps and one of the Tops is holding on to what remains of their living name
Right.
by touring the country and still giving people like you a chance for nostalgia when it's not at all the group that you are going to see. Like that, it's no longer that group.
Yeah, I mean they still do the hits and they sound a little bit like what you'd hear on the radio, but it was interesting because I think of that as a twin bill. I said to my wife on the way, I think the Four Tops are as big as the Temptations were, but the Temptations were clearly the lead act and the Four Tops were the opening act, and you saw that during the performance because the Four Tops were a little bit haphazard, whereas the Temptations were in sync. Their moves on stage were in sync. They were just a better group at this point.
Yeah, it feels like these groups are like, like the Dodgers and the Giants, like the rivals, like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and that sort of thing. Like, I feel like there's a rivalry there.
They shouldn't have been touring together. They should be sworn enemies through the Beyond. They should be fighting throughout the Beyond.
Yeah, that's right. One of us should be at the James L. Knight Center. The other one should be at the Browns.
See who sells more tickets, right?
Yeah,
you're right.
dueling tickets.
Yeah, you know what? If I was in charge of that show, I would have had them combined on stage for one song at the very end. I would have. It would have been great. I need to be the guy who, I'm an idea guy. I'm a can-do guy, and I need to be the guy in charge of staging that concert.
You're both? I think the idea guys hand it off to the can-do guys.
Right. Here's the idea. Go execute it.
You can't be both.
I do both.
You can't be both.
Yeah, no, I do both.
You don't do either, actually.
I do both.
Where's your back in my day?
Well, it's on vacation this week.
Okay,
It's
you
not
don't
a
do
concert.
both. You're not a
Give him a
can-do
break.
guy. You get. I ask you to do things and you don't do them. Like
He
you're
was
not
at a twin bill.
You're
man.
not. You don't get to describe yourself as a can-do guy.
Sugar pie, honey bunch. You know that I love you.
Attaboy.
Can't help myself. Everybody. All right.
Love
got
you
you
and
and
nobody
nobody
else. Dun, 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 dun.
Come on,
Come
running
and
to
you go.
Come and you go.
Come and you go. All right.
It's how he distracts you from not doing his work.
Well, back in my days on vacation. I deserve a
You
vacation.
said last week you'd have one this week.
Well, I'm on vacation. I was called in yesterday to write a Cristobal column. Otherwise, I'm on vacation all week.
This has nothing to do with the Herald.
Well, it's very nice of you to show
it
up
does.
on
Wow.
vacation.
Well, that's
I'm
just
being
it.
serious.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're here.
So you're presently on vacation right
Yeah.
now. Oh,
I
thank
am.
you, Greg.
You're welcome.
You haven't been an idea guy since Pope Fest that we did with Edwin Pope.
And then
Well,
I was a
thank
can-do
you.
guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to use you being the
You
can-do
are
guy. at
neither
Pope
an
Fest.
I-do guy nor a can-do guy. You are not. I don't know what kind of guy you are. You're neither of these things, though. You're not an idea guy. You're not a can-do guy.
He's just a
both.
guy.
How can you say that?
I come up with ideas. If I think they need delegating, I delegate.
Greg,
if I want to handle it myself,
Greg,
I handle it.
You are asked around here to come up with one idea a week. You can't do it. One idea a week for back in
Vacation.
my day. You keep getting asked to do it. You can't do it. That is neither an idea guy nor a can-do guy. That's a guy who consistently skips back in my day.
Well, look, sometimes it's a quality control issue, but this time it's a vacation issue. Back in my day, picture back in my day in a chaise lounge, maybe in a hammock with its feet up with a pina colada in his hand. Back in my day is on vacation. We're in Hawaii right now mentally.
This is
If you like pina coladas. Making love in the sand. What is that last line? Making love in the sand. Who does
in
that?
the rain.
Getting lost in the rain.
Oh yeah, in the rain. Yeah, you're right.
What are you? Why are you singing the Pina Colada song?
Well, I referenced pina colada. Back in my day, had a pina colada in its hand.
Yeah, that's not Motown.
In the hammock.
Stay with him, Dan.
Oh yeah, anything but Motown.
Is that a happy song or a sad song?
It wants to be a little of both. It's a message song. You know, it's about a couple falling apart and they find each other through like a want ad or something.
Yeah, I know.
It's a bizarre song.
I know, but is it? Thank you for the recap. But I know what I didn't ask you whether it was a bizarre song. I asked you whether it was a happy. You got to choose one: happy song or sad song.
I would say sad song.
They're about to cheat on each other, Greg.
Well, that's what's sad about it.
Greg, I saw last night.
Everybody plays the fool.
Sometimes.
This
Exactly.
made me think of you, Greg, because we have reached the point in Bruce Willis's career, and this is the only kind of work that he can get.
I have another Gooding fact off to the side.
Oh, great.
Oh, nice.
On the side, yes,
Yeah,
great.
Off to the
Quick
side.
aside. Yeah.
Cuba Gooding had another son, Omar Gooding, who was the running back in the short-lived ESPN show Playmakers.
And don't forget about Wild and Crazy Kids.
Wild and Crazy Kids.
Wow.
2 episodes, right? I think for Playmakers.
No,
No,
it
They got
was
a
all
full
the entire
season?
season. It had a cliffhanger.
Whole season, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That right
make the
there,
playoffs.
that right there, I believe that was a skipper call, or was that might have been pre-skipper? That might have been Mark Shapiro at ESPN. But I would say that that was where ESPN, right there, Playmakers, is where ESPN could have decided, do we want to be like a real content company, not just sort of these sports infomercials and a lot of shows that look the same, but scripted content? Do we want to branch out? They could have made a decision right there with Disney's backing at the height of what ESPN was. And the NFL didn't want to do Playmakers because Playmakers had drugs in it and sex in it, and they didn't want one of their partners depicting football that way. And so Playmakers just went away, but it was at least popular in part because it depicted football that way. And that right there you can cite as a symbolic point where ESPN made some decisions as a content company. No, we're not going to really go all in on the making of different stuff and cool stuff. We're just going to stay a company that does it with games. But the reason I thought of you with this Bruce Willis movie is because every time I now do a fun scroll through iTunes, and I don't know how much of the audience's streaming habits have changed or how quickly they have changed, or if you've even noticed the different way that you watch television than you used to before. But I used to take great delight in pouring through iTunes for new movies, and that changed during the pandemic because there weren't very many of them there. They're all coming back now. All of Hollywood and the content golden age is coming back to work, and so now you see some of these movies that have been produced during the pandemic, during a strained content time. Things are getting a little more back to normal. You can imagine what Ethan Hawke is like after 2 years of crazy, when he was already a little bit crazy, and now he's going to make a movie where he's extra Ethan Hawke crazy. But I love to scroll through the previews. And the last, 5 years that I've been doing it, Bruce Willis is always in the same movie. It's aging action star who's aged out of Liam Neeson's age and The Rock. They're all over 50, but Bruce Willis is the oldest of them. And so I thought of Stugotz with one part of it, which was the description of the movie. Serving a life sentence for a crime he didn't commit, ex-cop Thomas Malone is offered a chance at freedom if he can hunt other humans on a remote island.
Oh, that will get me every time.
All hell breaks loose.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
That's a must-see.
When Malone arrives.
Great
And
name, Malone.
Yeah, it is.
And this is not quite as epic a movie as Ridley Scott doing The Last Duel with Lena Dunham's creepy boyfriend from Girls, Adam Driver, and Matt Damon. And Ben Affleck. That's now...
That's how they unretired from screenwriting together. That was their big return after Good Will Hunting.
1400s Last Duel, Damon against Adam Driver with Ben Affleck and Ridley Scott.
Yeah, Ridley Scott just started blaming people in their phones after that bombed at the box office, as opposed to the pandemic.
But it's not this. It's Bruce Willis, and the villain Stugotz says, and the reason I thought of Cote is because of how lazy it's gotten.
Thank you.
The villain says,
Appreciate that.
this is the villain. I win. It's all I do. That's the villain in the preview. And then Bruce Willis is asked if he's good, and this is what he says. This is the dialogue. I'm better than good on bacon and eggs on Sunday morning.
What a great line.
Your movie.
Yeah,
This
it's
is
pretty damn
your-
good though.
This
He's
is
in
your
line for an Academy Award.
This is your
I mean,
movie. And he's sort of staring over. I think it's the same camera angle as when he's holding in Die Hard the machine gun while looking out of Nakatomi Plaza. I think it's the same, but he's looking over the camera and he's like, I'm better than good, standing over his fallen prey. I'm bacon and eggs on Sunday morning.
Like when you said, welcome to the party, pal. That angle.
Yes, it's that. But this is all he's doing. And what I want to ask you guys, and Greg Cote was in a theater for the first time recently to see Adam McKay's movie since when? What's that movie? When's the last time you
Swing
were?
Vote.
Swing Vote.
Well,
Costner.
actually, I saw Rocket Man, the Elton John movie, so I have seen that since Swing Vote, but I never go to a theater.
I think
You're
the
right.
movie only came out 3 years ago, so thank you.
There you go.
Chris, your dad was surprised the other day that the theater had a bar, correct? He thought you were in the wrong place because it had a bar.
He's like, wow, theaters have changed since the last
It
time
was
I went.
unbelievable. They had big cushioned seats. You know, I felt like I was in a living room. A living room better than mine, by the way. I've never sat in a seat like that. It was luxurious. I sank into the seat. You couldn't even see me during the movie because the chair was so big and I was sinking.
You bought two
It was
before it
luxurious.
started, didn't you?
Did what now?
Like you walked to the seat with two. I just like imagining you doing that.
No, I drank a Diet Coke during the movie.
Really? I had a nice Bordeaux.
Did you?
Yeah.
Wow.
You didn't know you were in the right
Nice.
place because there was a bar at the theater?
Right. I had no idea. I walked up with Magill and his wife. We got there at the same time, and they had to tell me, yeah, this is the entrance to the movie theater because all I saw was a big bar. And I'm like, this movie theater?
I want to say to you, I got to think, though, that Bruce Willis, just so that you guys understand this, he's about Greg's age, is he not? Bruce Willis.
I believe so.
Greg
yeah.
Cote was in a crowd last night.
Impossible.
You don't think that Bruce Willis is about 65 years old?
66.
There you go. We're brethren. Simpatico.
I now want you to imagine Greg Cote as an action star.
I could be an action star.
You should shave your head.
And it's getting there on its own.
Would you like
believe me.
to? I have an idea.
No, I really wouldn't. I am cut out to be an action star, by the way.
What?
I say I'm cut out to be an action
I
star.
heard what
He
you
just
said.
says things
I just need the
sometimes.
right script. You know?
That's been the holdup.
Yes. Nobody's presented me
Right.
with the right script.
The guy who wheezes to climb up one flight of stairs
Ah,
is going
that's
to
all
be an
for
action
show.
star.
That's all for show.
You're an idea guy, though.
Thank you.
Can you read that bit of dialogue? I'm better than bacon and eggs
Damn
on a
right I
Sunday.
can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you do it without wheezing?
Yeah.
All right.
Good. I'm better than bacon and eggs on a Sunday.
Oh, I nailed it.
It wasn't convincing in any way.
With a side of whole wheat toast. That's what I would
Your
add.
voice gave out on
As a
toast.
flourish. I would add that.
The thing that I was asking you guys, though, is at any point are we going to notice that all our action stars are over 50 and it's a little ridiculous?
Who is the youngest action star right now?
Probably Chris Pratt.
He's an action star.
So they're either from The Office or over 50?
Parks and Rec, Dan.
Or Parks and Rec, excuse me.
Wow.
I think of him as just a movie star. Is he really an action star?
He's a movie
He's
star.
been in Guardians of the Galaxy. He's an action star.
He's doing a lot of action movies.
Is Ryan Reynolds an action star?
I think so. But he's the comedic relief. He was just in Red Notice with Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Maybe that's the thing. When you're younger, you're just an overall star, and as you get older, it's like this is all I have kind of thing. Because Bruce Willis is not going to be the lead in like a main.
But Ryan Reynolds wouldn't want to be considered just an action star. He's doing it as Deadpool with a wink. He's doing it.
Don't put him in a box.
Is it Renner an action star?
I would think Chris Pratt would say the same thing.
No.
Not just an action star.
No.
No, Jeremy Renner's not an action star. He occasionally appears as Hawkeye, but all the other roles are not.
Well,
in
he
action
took the
movies.
Bourne money too, so I think that's why Stugotz is doing that. Renner got in there after.
He was in the Mission Impossible movies. I'm not a big Bourne franchise fan, so I don't know if he's in the Bourne franchise. So.
Wasn't he the Bourne after Bourne? Wasn't he after? They still needed to keep capitalizing on it. Matt Damon left because he said, I was tired of filming movies where I'm just running around and there's no script. They're just filming me running around cities. I don't even know what we're doing anymore. he gets out of there. I thought Renner replaced Bourne. Did he not?
He was in the Bourne Legacy. Yeah.
Okay. I know he was in Mission Impossible too, but he wasn't playing like an action role there. He was more like brains of the operation, more like the idea guy, not the can-do guy.
Could you call the Hurt Locker a war drama, or could you call it an action movie?
That's not an action.
Yeah, you defuse bombs in that
drama.
Yeah. Very tense.
Great
moments
movie.
there.
The Rock is 49.
Greg Cote, if you were an idea guy and a can-do guy, you guys realize how much fun you guys could have with some commercials or trying to make a trailer of Greg Cote action star? Like, do you realize if you had either the idea or the can-do of it, that is something that could be put together and our audience would enjoy you wheezing up a set of stairs as an action star.
Greg Cote is Old Man Winter. Rated
That's
R.
right. Nothing wrong with that.
Greg Cote is can't do.
Can't do. Action star, that's the low rung of acting, is to be an action figure. But I would be willing to do that. I'm well suited. I've been surprising people my whole life with my athleticism, and I'm not ready to stop yet. Show me the right script, I'm there for you. As long as the casting call is not at 8 a.m., because that's ridiculous.
Great.
Got to start later.
What are you guys laughing about back there? Why does Roy have his head in his hands? What's happening?
You guys were just referencing, someone just said in there, hats off. And my dad was talking yesterday about how he was like lamenting that people talk about hats off, but they're never wearing hats when they do it.
Yeah, that's been my observation. My hat's off to that guy not wearing a hat. It drives me crazy. Don't say my hat's off to... I was talking to Frank Gore the other day, or yesterday.
Pick that name up.
In his gym. Because he's a boxer now, as you guys know.
How do you look?
He looked great. Oh, he was ripped. I think of him as kind of pudgy. Anyway, he kept...
Kind of pudgy, Frank Gore?
Yeah.
I kind of get what he's saying.
A little pudgy.
I would say square, but
not cut.
Not a lot of fat. Not a lot of fat.
Anyway, he was ripped, but he kept saying, my hat's off, meaning to fighters. You can hide in football, you can't hide in the ring, that kind of thing.
That was making you crazy?
Did you say anything to him?
No, I didn't, but he said
terrifying?
it two or three times. What a small man, by the way. He's listed as 5'9". He's like 5'7".
It's always funny to me because of the pads and everything else and the running style in that case.
Yeah.
That you don't realize how small some of these people are. You will realize it when he gets into a ring with Deron Williams, though.
Yeah, 6 inches he's given up.
Well, there's just going to be... I would not want to fight Frank Gore under any circumstances, but you're used to seeing Frank Gore in pads. I believe people are going to be startled when they see how much bigger than him Deron Williams is.
Oh, my God. It was interesting to see him shadow boxing in the ring because, seriously, he was literally taking uppercuts like way up here in preparation for this fight. It's going to be an interesting mismatch physically, but Frank Gore, I almost said. Frank Gore was looking good.
You didn't almost say it. You said
looking good.
I mean,
a boxing match there.
Yeah, Frank Gore would kick Al Gore's
Why'd
ass.
your
by the
eyes
way.
just roll in the back of your head when you said that?
They look good. Frank Gore looked good. Tell me about it.
To me, that's the main event. I'm way more interested. I know Jake Paul draws, and they just had to switch the main event.
Yeah.
Tommy Fury's out with an injury, so we're getting Woodley again.
Right.
They fought already?
Yeah, they fought. This is Woodley Paul 2.
Oh, boy. He's on to twos already?
Yeah. Well, he had to be. Tommy Fury, that would have been, I guess, interesting, and maybe Jake Paul would have finally lost. But he doesn't really pick opponents that he'd lose to. But I'm excited about Frank Gore versus Deron Williams.
Me too.
That, to me, is a dream fight.
I can't believe we're talking about this stuff this way, but I understand why it is. It's a perfect confluence of sort of fame and sparkle and entertainment and nonsense and young people that you need in 2021 to, put some sort of weird event on boxing that boxing on its merits can't get by itself. Because this is a distortion. It's impure. It's not very good fighting for people who like fighting, but it's great spectacle for people who like spectacle. It's great circus freak for people who like circus freak. And you really do have boxing, I feel like, factioned off generationally and sort of culturally between ethnicities that love the sport, people who love the tactical artistry of the sport, and then this stuff, which is something different, which is how you get tomorrow's fans, because young people, like the Pauls, are building something there. I mean, it's got an undercurrent of dirty, but it's profitable in a way that is elevating people like Frank Gore and Deron Williams. If they want a athletic juice after retiring that comes with a little bit of money, they have to play on an undercard because these guys have captured something with their YouTube following.
Frank Gore is on that undercard, and Deron Williams are trying to get us. But Jake Paul is the main card, is the main fight.
Well, they're trying to get to Jake Paul. They're trying to get to a fight with Jake Paul.
I'm saying from an audience perspective, that's to try to hook us in. But Jake Paul, I'm telling you, Dan, my daughters who are now seniors in high school, they get together with their friends every time Jake Paul fights, and they sit around the television and they enjoy it and they love
That's
it.
why
And
it's
they
smart.
watch it.
It's different different generations.
Right.
Like we're worried about the Frank Gores of the world, and the younger kids all want to see Jake Paul. I mean, I'm kind of into the Jake Paul stuff too, just because he's. I mean, I'm not saying he's a good dude, but he makes good. He plays the fight game right.
And I don't want to see that Woodley fight again. Like I mean, even if
I didn't want to see it the first time.
But the first
Woodley
time
did have him in one round where he could knock him out. Like I kind of want to see Woodley get Jake Paul this time. Honestly.
Really? Okay, so you wanted to see a second fight between
I'm not saying I
those two
wanted to see that. I would have rather seen him fight Fury, but I'll buy this one because I think Woodley can knock Jake Paul out, and I wanted that to happen last time.
They're not bad fights. It's people throwing. Jake Paul obviously is serious about training for boxing, and Woodley has trained boxing. That's
They're bad fights compared to real fights. To real fights. They're bad fights compared to the highest forms of the sport. They would lose to hundreds and hundreds of boxers.
Yeah, no, I understand the skill of that, but they're also how many pay-per-view fights have we ordered over the last 30 years that we know that these are the two best, and the fight is super disappointing. There's not a lot of fireworks. It's more of a defensive battle. Styles make fights, they say. Well, sometimes there are conflicting styles that don't make for a great fight. With the celebrity fights, for the most part, people are just tuning in to see someone get knocked out.
Yeah. And I think that's what the reason was that Woodley didn't want to go after Jake Paul, too, in that first fight, because this is his first boxing match, obviously, and he saw the ghost of Nate Robinson lift from the canvas after Jake Paul knocked him out. So he's like, I am not putting my face anywhere near him. Now that he's had those, 11 rounds or whatever, 7 rounds or whatever they went, now he understands the game a little bit more. So I'm actually more interested to see Woodley and Paul, too. Tommy Fury, Jake Paul would have knocked his head off his shoulders.
God, I am bothered by the fact that you guys want to see that fight was so substandard.
You're an artsy guy. You want to see it for the art. We just want to have fun. We want to get.
No, I'm not
some
going
drinks
to
on a Saturday night.
It's
something to watch on a Saturday night.
Do not put me in the position where I'm the one coming out against what the young kids like that they say is popular. I'm saying as a fight, those two. You could give me Paul against someone else. That was not an interesting fight between those two. Woodley was washed in the UFC, and he's not much of a striker. And there wasn't much in the way of strength and power. So even if you want to tempt me toward the circus freak fame elements of it, give me a different UFC guy is what I'm saying. That was not an interesting fight. You say you want to see someone knocked out. It's not what that fight gave you. It didn't give you much of that because those two guys, that was not an engaging. It wasn't like
it almost did though, Dan.
Mike. It was not a war. It was not those two guys. It was basically Woodley keeping his distance the entire fight and people complaining the entire fight. Why won't you attack UFC guy? Why won't you go at him? And it's because Jake Paul was a good deal bigger than he is.
I'm not gonna pick on a replacement fight. That's a very difficult blow to a big event that's around the corner. That your co-headliner is pulled out with an injury. I really don't give a shit about that fight. I wouldn't have given a shit about it if it were Fury or Paul. It would have just been something that's on after Frank Gore versus Deron Williams, which I love that I'm having this conversation in 2021. That sounds like a kooky hypothetical I would have thrown out to my friends at a bar one time. Who do you think wins in a fight, Deron Williams, Frank Gore? I get to actually see it. I like that.
I do too.
Here's another thing about that I love as we're in the content golden age. Love it, and we'll support it for this reason, if for no other. They're making legitimate money there that they don't have to share the way the fighters have to do it in UFC. Woodley just got a bigger payday than he got for his entire career, all of it combined, because of how ESPN and how the partnership with UFC gives so little to these fighters from all this money made. What the Pauls have done is open up the revenue stream to content makers can go grab their own money. And so there's real money to be made for Frank Gore and Deron Williams. If they win this fight, there is an ecosystem here of direct to consumer. We will pay to watch you on a Saturday night because we're bored.
I have another report. I'm now in the fight game. There have been negotiations between Marty Fish and Wiz Khalifa for an MMA bout, and that is a Mike Ryan exclusive.
Holy shit.
I would love to see that.
Hold on.
Fishy would take him out.
Hold on.
Stugotz has to walk him out.
I do.
Wait a minute.
And I will.
Wait, just slow down. How did we get from that shocking news to Stugotz already angling to I'm on the walkout? Just hold on.
Fishy's my boy.
Mike, you just broke another bit of news. You are now going for everybody's job in the insider game. You are saying that there are negotiations going on right now between former American #1 tennis player Marty Fish.
He never got as high as 7. I say that because me and Marty are very good friends. Yeah.
Current Davis Cup captain.
He was never number
Marty
one?
Fish.
No, he was never as high as number 7.
No, but he was never the #1 American tennis player in the world?
Yeah, he was.
I think he was.
I think it may be a minute, but it was always Roddick before him.
I think he was headed into that
It's
Federer.
okay, you just weren't listening. It's all right.
Roddick's American.
At a point, he was a top American tennis player, even if it was a flashing point. What Dan says remains. He's a current Davis Cup captain.
In 2011, he overtook Andy Roddick to become #1.
How about that? He beat Nadal and Federer in his career. That's kind of cool to watch fight Wiz Khalifa.
Small fish in a big pond.
Hats off to you.
Thank you. See, you're wearing a hat. You're entitled to say that.
But he didn't take it off.
Yeah. Well, you got a headset on. So.
Greg Cote just in an audio medium silently mouthed thank you and blew a kiss as the audience was wondering, did my podcast go down? Because of the silence, because you just wanted to make a...
Speaking of podcasts, the latest episode of the Greg Cote Show is on fire. It's a quirk fest, and my wife reveals the oddest quirk about me, and it is so embarrassing. You have to listen to find out. Continue.
It's that he says Brad when he burps.
Well, way to spoil it. But more than just that.
He has for years. When he burps, he says the word Brad.
It appears to be the word Brad.
And ass wipe.
For years. What do you mean? And
Ass wipe. I want you to summon up a burp if you go.
Hold on. Thank you, Chris.
I want to hear this.
Still, hold on, because I want everyone to absorb this now. Now we're going to go in deep into the recesses of Greg Cote's home and life, into the inner circle. If you were in a home with Greg Cote married to him for the last 40 years, when he burps, after the burp, and he burps often because he is drinking prodigious amounts of beer and Diet Coke at home, but never water. So when I say
weird. I've never seen him drink water.
So he is a prodigious burper, and he will burp all over the house, and he loves the burps, and he enjoys them with great vigor. Each one of them is followed by both the lingering, echoing word Brad for no good reason, and then asswipe. Then the word asswipe. That is how Greg Cote burps. Am I saying anything that's incorrect? It's Brad asswipe. So basically, Erlene lives with a creature that in the other part of the house you can hear it because that creature makes the strange sound of burp, Brad, asswipe.
I've kind of perfected it too. It's kind of like guttural. It's like Brad, and then in the asswipe, it's ass wipe.
Never together though. Those are different burps.
Dangerous, yeah.
When my burp is in the higher register, I tend to say the word yike, and then there's a fourth one that I won't mention. I have 4 distinct burps. They appear to include an audible word, but it's just the style of my burp. It's not me
Right.
saying
You
that's
can't
why I
control
burp.
it.
Yeah,
Right,
I mean, how
yeah.
ridiculous was
So
that?
hear that and more on this week's Greg Cote Show.
Okay, but
Nothing like a good burp.
Mike, did you just break the story that Marty Fish? You're just breaking the story. This is they're in negotiations. This is a thing that's going to happen on one of these ridiculous event fight nights where Wiz Khalifa is going to fight Marty Fish.
And there is concern inside the Fish camp that Wiz Khalifa may be ducking Marty Fish. They both actively train MMA pretty rigorously, and Wiz Khalifa can throw hands, but Marty Fish feels like he would whoop up on Wiz Khalifa. This is a fight I really want to see, and it wouldn't be one of these boxing circus events. No, this would be MMA rules.
I want you to hit the sound again here as you really try to enter the realm of newsbreaker. You have been somebody.
Did he break the AD thing?
I
The
think he
Miami
did,
athletic
yeah.
director thing?
Yeah, I did.
I
That's
noticed.
incredible.
Yeah, he's going to be the guy.
Are you going to break
They
the
announced
OC?
it.
Is that you feel like you're the guy who's?
I don't know. Like, it's weird how my network is expanding. But Wiz Khalifa, Marty Fish, MMA fight over the summer. They're in talks, and that is a Mike Ryan exclusive.
Hey people, tell us what in the sport made you laugh hardest this weekend. It is a segment we call What Made You Laugh This Weekend. Ha ha ha!
Hey, Dano.
Hang on. Let's do this again. we were miking him, and he got caught.
He said
off
Mike me on
Yeah.
Mike.
All right, here we go.
Hey people, tell us what in the sport made you laugh hardest this weekend. It is a segment we call What Made You Laugh This Weekend. Ha ha ha!
Hey, Dano. Funniest thing in the sports weekend.
Oh, wow.
A day late. We've got
$1 short.
Plenty to choose from here. Tony, what was the funniest thing from the sports weekend?
Dan, we talked about it yesterday, but I was just so enamored with Teddy Bridgewater's 20-play, 88-yard, 11-minute, and 7-second
good.
drive that ended on a 4th and 2 with a
good.
draw play up the middle that lost a yard.
So good. Just so.
Thanks.
It's just so
That
Broncos.
play call on the 4th and 2. A draw up the middle.
Yeah, Fangs was trying to catch him sleeping.
He was already satisfied. He had chewed 11
He
minutes
did.
off the
He
clock.
did.
I mean,
He's, you know
Mission
what
accomplished.
You know what he was saying to himself in that moment with that call? I believe Fangs was saying to himself, you know what? It's harder not to get points in this situation than it is to finish it up with points. It's harder to get a 20-play, 88-yard drive that doesn't get you points.
You could have done what Kyle Shanahan did with this situation a couple weeks ago, which is kick a field goal on 4th and 1 from the 2. Instead, Vic Fangio, aggressive, went for it.
yeah.
Well, let me ask you guys this question because of the level of precision we've gotten to in football. Are you guys not watching all of this real estate acquisition in small spaces for 4 yards at a time with people covered better than you've ever seen, and the rules meant to get you a lot of flags in situations when two guys are just playing football and it's hard to run with another world-class athlete 50 yards down the field, and I might grab like a jersey a little bit or hit somebody with an elbow, and then there's Gronk just pushing off, allowed to push off at all times because we want offense. Are you guys not marveling at what you're watching every Sunday at how hard it is for all of these people to get 4 yards of open space in a confinement with all of this athleticism that it's difficult for even Justin Jefferson?
For me, the
4 years of space, 4 yards of
to
space.
get 4 yards of space, even though he's like a basketball player who's floating above earth most of the time.
The marvel is the defense and how anyone can defend in this league. Because there was a defensive lineman this weekend that was penalized for tackling. Just tackling, doing everything that you would have been taught at 12 years old of how to tackle.
Roughing on the
quarterback, because while you've done your job, you've beaten a 330-pound offensive lineman to get around him, to get to the quarterback. Your job that you spend 365 days to prepare for, you do it. And then you have to think, as I'm doing this, I have to twist so I can land on my side and not the quarterback because I've done my job too well.
It is crazy It is crazy to think of it from those terms, you guys, because this is what Ryan Clark was trying to tell you guys the other day when he's saying the amount of effort that I try to make a play with and the amount of ice baths and needles and everything else so that I can be in a position that the Raiders yesterday could have won with a pick six that would have been in the last minute of the game, just pick six, end the game. You change the Raiders season, all this talk about Ruggs and Gruden all of a sudden, and he just dropped it. The amount of work that's done to get to the point where you're in position to make a play in that sport.
Right.
And then, we neuter it with the silliest of things, the silliest and the dumbest of things.
With a flag. I mean, for something the guy can't control. I mean,
with a flag trying to protect the quarterback just so that a 300-pound man doesn't land directly on him but falls off to the side, and you're changing a game with that call. It's just crazy what we're watching on Sundays.
Do you think if Fangs ran the NFL that an 11-play drive that it's a drive that shoot up 11 minutes, no points, but in Fangs' NFL, that would be a touchdown, right? Like, he doesn't have to get in the end zone. He'd shoot up 11 minutes.
Wait a minute. That should be worth more.
I agree.
That should be worth.
It's very difficult.
There should be some sort of bonus that if you can do a 20-play, 88-yard drive,
and score.
Those are the two numbers. And be in a position to not score, you get 10 points.
And Witty, it's penalized, not penalized.
Thank you.
I'm going to go with Witty. I wanted to correct him, but I didn't know. Yeah.
It just makes me roll my eyes.
It's also phallic.
That's right.
It is.
Chris Cote, what was the funniest thing from the sports weekend?
Sean McDonough was calling Oklahoma State Baylor, and he has these like one sheets. Apparently, Witty tells me it's called a spotting board. It's like all his information on one sheet. And I'm telling you that Sean McDonough's was the size of a poster board. It was literally the size of like 14 pieces of paper connected together, and he was holding it up.
Very prepared.
You're not reading all that stuff.
Pornographic for me. Yeah. That's a beautiful spotting board, my friend. Sean, well done, sir.
Witty.
That is porn for you, is it not, Chris Whittingham? Just a
good prep.
What's the biggest spotting board you've ever had?
Love good prep.
There's no bigger than that one, right? You saw the one I'm talking about?
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Massive. I used to when I was doing football at the University of Miami, there was one printer in the comm school that had 11 by 17 sheets of paper. I had to go for football games to go and get these giant pieces of paper printed for my football charts. And then you get them laminated afterwards. I love a good board.
But Chris Cote is saying that McDonough doesn't know everything on that.
I'm just saying
board.
he's not. There's no way. It was so big. He's not getting to a third of that stuff.
I'm guessing 80% of that gets left on the cutting room floor. But I'm guessing
more probably.
I'm guessing that he is a person who knows everything that's on that board. I don't think anybody has any idea the amount of prep that goes into the things that Whittingham does.
Like college football, I've heard Joe Test talk about, like, you can stop him on a flight and go 71 on BC, and he like has the name off the top of his head. Knowing the names of 100 college football players, some of whom wear the same number jersey, is the hardest part of doing that sport. There's so many players.
I bet you the people listening to this don't have any earthly idea, including Stugotz. Stugotz says, I can do it. Yeah. I can do it. Yeah. No problem. I can do it.
No spotting board.
Whittingham, what was the funniest thing? What was the funniest thing from the sports weekend?
The media call for the Alamo Bowl, which featured Mario Cristobal and Bob Stoops, neither of whom took any questions from the assembled press.
Neither of whom would defend the Alamo. It's unbelievable. What a mercenary business that has become, that all of a sudden you've got a situation where the Alamo Bowl doesn't have Lincoln Riley, Bob Stoops coming in, lifetime ambassador position.
Right.
And the Alamo Bowl doesn't have Mario Cristobal anymore.
On the subject of Bob Stoops, have you seen him on the set of Big Noon Kickoff?
I have.
That's a tiny desk for 6 people. There's so many people on that show. I think at one point Reggie Bush was sitting on Brady Quinn's shoulders. It's the only room that was available on that desk. There's so many people there.
Why?
I don't know. Well, you have Matt Leinart and Brady Quinn kind of overlap. kind of good-looking former Heisman-winning quarterbacks. There's a lot going on there.
Who would you take out?
Do you need both of them? I think Leinert's the one that's.
I think Quinn's the one.
Well,
Quinn's got to go.
Hey, easy.
No, Quinn doesn't go.
Quinn stays.
Yeah, bye-bye, Leinart. There is a duplication in the USC department. You're out of here.
They already have Reggie Bush. Do you need Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart?
Absolutely
they were on the same
not.
team, and all three of those guys played in the exact same era.
Yeah, but
Also-
Leinart won the Heisman.
Also,
didn't he?
just curious, does that broadcast have a woman on it?
Reggie Bush.
They had a
won the
Wendy's
Heisman.
ad.
No, he
actually,
didn't.
They took
this
it
year.
away from him.
Okay, so Wendy.
They took it away from him.
They took it away retroactive Brady Quinn Heisman.
Does that mean that Reggie Bush is kind of in the Alex Rodriguez reformed his image enough to be a disgraced former Heisman winner?
He's in Wendy's commercials.
Yeah.
You've got
He's one of the faces of college football on the basis of being on that show, despite being banned from it.
Reggie Bush not only has all the things that we are talking about right here, here's a fairly amazing one I would also add to the proceedings. Reggie Bush is right where Kim Kardashian and that empire started becoming the powerhouse that you saw. And people don't remember some of that. It was long enough ago that they don't remember that Reggie Bush came after Ray J and came after all of those things. I didn't mean that phrasing.
Can that be my funniest thing in Sports Weekend?
That classifies Jessica.
We all just looked at each other and went,
Jessica, what was the funniest thing for start the music back up? I love the timing of it falling down as soon as I did that. And everyone was staring at me. Jessica, what was the funniest thing from the Sports
I
Weekend?
feel like I want to change it now. This has gotten so smutty. But the funniest thing for me was the Cardinals tweet where they turned the bean into a penis.
It has gotten smutty.
What's the bean?
You don't know what the bean is? Chris, when I was a young girl and I found the bean, happiest day of my life.
Oh my God. Hell yeah.
Do you know? Have you seen the bean? Have you found it? You know where it is?
What are we doing right now?
She's talking about she's just talking about the bean. You guys are
I've never
talking
found
about
the bean.
something else. It's hard.
No, that's not a surprise.
Do you guys want to explain to the audience that might not know, or just leave it alone?
It's a sculpture in Chicago.
Oh.
The bean. What were you guys thinking about?
Shit.
Mike,
I had that one all.
What was the funniest thing from the Sports Weekend, Mike?
Me and my family.
Oh, yeah, so good.
I'm
Wait
sorry.
a minute, you're Elvis now. You're not Brian Kelly.
Me,
my doctor,
my family, my doctor.
It's been a blue Christmas without you.
I love the tradition of dressing up coaches in suits, but they have to be in your team colors. So they love doing that. So Brian Kelly in a purple suit.
L'aubergine.
Such a weird moment.
Brian Kelly dressed like he's Prince. Dressed like he's going to take over Gotham by
It's so
by
good.
offering Batman a predatory loan.
So good.
did they give him the extra purple?
They did.
Like, it's not just like
Deep
it's not a normal
purple.
shirt. It's like, find the one that's the most purple.
So Brian Kelly
How
and
good-
his transformation
how
into
good-
a Southern aristocrat.
How good would Marcus Freeman look in that same suit?
Oh my
Oh
God.
my God, that guy.
How good would he look without it?
Baby.
Hell yeah.
We were talking about Reggie Bush and Leinart. Who's the college analyst that's like ascended as an analyst but had a mediocre playing career? And I don't remember him
Greg
playing.
McElroy.
Like, was David Pollock a great player in
Pollock
college?
was an awesome
I don't
player.
remember. I'm sorry. I knew
He's a great
that.
Three-time
NFL player,
All-American.
but he hurt his
Yeah, he hurt
neck.
his neck.
Injuries. Okay.
What was Herbie's career like?
Ooh,
He
that
was
could be a
good.
good one.
Was he?
I don't think Herbie played in the NFL.
No, he did
No,
not.
but he was
No,
a
talking about
great,
college
great
career.
He was
Ohio
a
State
decent college player. Decent.
I mean, Brady Quinn wasn't what he was supposed to
It's
be.
true. That's a good one.
He was really good. Brady Quinn was very, very
No.
good.
He's talking about the pros.
Oh, and the pros.
Brady
Yeah,
Quinn was
no, but
not-
He got drafted by the Browns, Dan.
Are you? Do you have a siren or somewhere that goes off that you have to protect Notre Dame people from whatever
You say
angle
Brady
they
Quinn,
need?
Brady Quinn. Who's talking about Brady Quinn behind my back?
Herbie might be the answer though,
I think Herbie is the answer.
because he's like the #1 college analyst, and he, might have had a fine career, but
Remember that protein shake commercial that Brady Quinn had where they're like, now I'm done. And it's just abs were just.
It's 100% Herbie. He had 5 passing touchdowns in his college career.
Yeah.
11 interceptions.
Exactly.
So why were
They were run heavy?
It was Wishbone back
Why
then,
was
though.
Jessica remembering him?
He had
Even though he
negative
played
rushing yards his senior season.
He played before Jessica's days, and Jessica was remembering him as a good college
How did
player.
Ohio State do?
Because I think they had a good season his senior year. Like they won 12 games or 10 games or something.
In spite of him?
Yeah, in spite of him, I guess.
In spite of Herb
Like
Street.
he wasn't a scrub. He was good.
He was Craig
He had
Krenzel.
4
He was
touchdowns.
Craig Krenzel before Craig Krenzel.
I wasn't alive, so I'm
Did
very,
everything
very
necessary.
open to
He
being
did.
very wrong here.
Krenzel did what he had to do. I mean, he
But
did.
Herbie didn't
He had
even
a
do
big,
that.
he had a
Herbie
big
just
comeback
threw.
against Purdue.
He did.
Recall.
Yeah.
Herbie threw a bunch of interceptions.
Good question, Chris.
Stugotz,
Ohio State.
what was the funniest thing from the sports weekend?
The 1-10-1 Lions still having a mathematical chance of making the playoffs.
No, that's no.
If San Francisco would have beaten Seattle on Sunday, they would have been eliminated. But because they didn't, they're still technically alive.
I don't believe you.
In the hunt?
No, no.
They're in the mix. I mean,
No,
one win.
that can't be mathematically true.
They've covered the spread in 2/3 of their games. I said it on Sunday, and I still can't believe it.
I've got a couple of nominees here, Stugotz. One of them is Joel Osteen. This was delightful this weekend. There had been some donations that had been missing,
Yeah.
checks and cash from a sermon, and this was from 2014. A plumber who was working on a toilet found $600,000 of those donations in the church walls 7 years after they disappeared. I don't know if I know that Joel Osteen says that God favors you with wealth when you have been good, but I'd love to know the details of what happened there, because somebody put that in a wall and didn't touch it for 7 years. And it just sat there. Somebody did that. They intended to go back at some point.
Yes.
Is
But
there
the plumber
someone-
beat him to it.
Is there someone reading this news story and like pounding a table going, shit, they found it?
I was going to go last month. Mildred, last month.
Mildred.
And get it out of there. Or was it Osteen? Was it him? Was it him?
I think that's where the money for Mario Cristobal's buyout came from.
It might as well have. But I am not selecting that, Stugotz.
You're not, huh?
No, nor am I selecting.
Wait, did the plumber report that he found the money? Like gave the money back?
Yes.
Oh, it's a terrible job by the plumber.
Well, let me ask you another question
one
on
would've
that.
known,
Let me
I
ask
mean-
you another.
Stugotz the plumber is in hiding right now.
That is true. So I want to ask Stugotz this question, because there was another story I was reading this weekend about somebody, and it made me think of you, because I think 13-year-old girl on her third day with a metal detector, Stugotz, found an axe from the Bronze Age 3,000 years ago, and an assortment of other things. Third day with a metal detector, she finds what would be classified in value by definition by the government as treasure.
Okay.
What would you do?
I would not tell anyone. I'd probably sell it on the black market.
A tremendous crime is what you would commit, because the government seizes all this stuff. The people who find it are not entitled to own it. It is a great crime. I don't believe just there. I believe everywhere. I believe the United States, that the government, and I don't think it's fair either. I think you should get to keep it, but it only gets you
Finders keepers.
a reward. All it gets you
Right.
is a reward. You don't get to actually keep it and sell it on the black market.
Is there a black market for axes from the Bronze Age? There is? Smitty, you're saying yes?
Oh God, there's a black market for all sorts of artifacts, dude.
Really?
I don't know how you would find it. I don't know what black market connection.
That axe is worth a lot of money to somebody, right?
Witty, can you tell me what the crime is for trying to pawn off a treasure's your own? Learn a lesson here, people, that if you find a treasure of that age, I don't think in the United States that you can keep it or sell it without it being a pretty substantive crime. So Stugotz, of course, would default to, I would try to sell it on the black
What is
market.
the crime? I found the axe. I found the axe. Finders, keepers, losers, weepers. I sell that thing black. In fact, I don't even sell on the black market. Why should I have to?
It's generally referred to as
Or sell it on
archaeological.
eBay. Maybe a little Etsy or something like that.
There's a lot of that stuff on Etsy.
Medieval battle axes?
Seriously, you go into the dark corners of Etsy, Mike, you're gonna see some shit.
Dark Ages.
Etsy is freaky.
The Dark
Etsy?
Ages.
Detsy?
There's some weird stuff there.
It's generally referred to as archaeological theft.
I found it.
Hell yeah. That's my Nick Cage.
It depends where you live. There's like some countries have really strict rules about it. Like I think in the UK, because there's so much like Viking excavation stuff happening there, that people will purposely like go out and like try to make a living finding coins and selling it on the black market. So now they have stricter laws there about
awesome.
what you can keep.
Going on a bike trip and finding a medieval battle axe. How gnarly would that be?
It'd be great.
I love a
Jesus.
black market, man.
It doesn't seem fair to me that you don't get more than the reward in that circumstance. You should get to keep an arrowhead or something. You should get to keep something if you are somebody who legitimately finds treasure. That said, and I don't know the girl's name, your metal detector career after this is going to be nothing but downhill.
Right. You beat.
Like you are going to find a single quarter and be really disappointed that it's not treasure. You should retire. She should retire.
Go out on top.
Don't
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Third day, that's what she finds. Did you guys know there was a metal detector magazine? I've always wondered about the mindset and whether it's meditative or not. The number of people I see on the beach here and what they collect, how much career and money there is in it.
Her career, like you said, is going to be all downhill from here. Unlike Herb Streets, because I just went on Wikipedia. Yeah, that dude stunk in college.
He was bad.
Oh my God, I
Yeah.
feel like I've been bamboozled my entire life.
It's those eyes.
He wasn't good at football.
Is it the eyes?
It's the eyes.
It is the eyes.
He has stunning
Deep blue
eyes.
lagoons make you think that he maybe was better at touchdowns than interceptions. But
Also, he works a clicker better than any other analyst in the sport. Really? He works that clicker.
doesn't Orlovsky use it better? I feel like what Ryan Clark and Orlovsky are doing, are they?
He's next level. He's with the iPad. He's got the iPad. Like they go to him on set, and he's like, "All right, guys, I'm gonna die," and he's like holding an iPad and drawing stuff. I think Herbie has an old school coach's clicker.
You mean he's like drawing on the play when he's showing you a replay,
Yes,
and you're just
yes.
hoping that he draws a penis? Everyone does that, right?
Yes.
I've always wanted to draw a telestrator penis. It's my life's mission.
Ron Rothstein, the Heat guy, he
Yeah.
always draws penises.
Put it on
Stop
the,
it. Roll it.
Put it on the poll, please, at LeBatard Show. Is Ron Rothstein always drawing penises? Or peni, I guess, would be the plural.
What would you do if you found the X?
Well, because of what I just told you, though, I'd have to report it to somebody. I'd want to keep it. My instinct would be to do what you do. I want to keep this. I don't want to tell anybody. I want to sell it. But if I know it's a crime.
You can't keep that thing in your house. You ever see a scary movie once? Like there is like absolutely some sort of ghoul residing inside the handle of that battle axe that will slay you and your family.
Because I'm clearly bringing in death from the
Yeah.
beyond into my home.
Yeah.
You believe in the energies of that?
Yeah. I mean, how many times is that? Can you imagine how many times that battle axe has been used to impale someone? That's a lot of negative spiritual energy in your casa.
Put it on the poll, please, at LeBatard Show. Is that a lot of negative spiritual energy in your casa?
That's how you have to say it. I mean,
The funniest thing, though, for me from the weekend, because I want to ask Stugotz here. I think Stugotz is going to be very upset by this. My father did something this weekend that I believe to be the funniest thing of the sports weekend, and I think you guys are going to be either mad at him or horrified for what it is that he has done.
Okay.
Especially Jessica. I think Jessica is going to be the one here that it bothers.
Did you talk shit about Brady Quinn, Dan? I'll fight him. I'll beat his ass, Dan. Get over here, Poppy.
I voted for the Heisman this weekend, and I just emailed my father and asked him if he had gotten all of the information for his Heisman vote as well, because my father has had one for many years. And my father wrote back. I wrote the head of the regional chapter and told him I was no longer at ESPN and that he should have his vote back. He had not known that. And so I guess my father voted last year without being at ESPN. and didn't think it was right. So my father gave back his Heisman vote, but could have kept it for the rest of time. And it made me think of you, Stugotz.
I would have loved that Heisman vote.
It just made me think of what you would have done in that circumstance. My family had 2 Heisman votes and now only has 1 because my father simply gave his back, and they would not have known. They would not have taken it back from him. It would have taken, like I said, he may have voted in 2 since he's left in ESPN. I'm not sure if it's 1 or 2.
I would have sold it on the black market.
Ron, can you give us the latest here on what's going on with you became a political activist of great controversy here over the last month, and Billy Corbin's been saying that already some of promises have been broken on what it is that you're trying to protect here. You have been loud about this cause and you have been vigorous. What is the latest? Because I know the mayor called you, but then I just see reports that they're wrecking this entire habitat already and that birds are flying out of there already.
Yeah, it's a problem, Dan. You know, the neighbors got a drone in there, and drone footage shows a big backhoe in there ripping out trees. I immediately texted the mayor. She immediately sent in the people from, whatever environmental services. They stopped digging, but the answer that was given was, they were just removing invasive Brazilian peppers and getting soil samples. Well, that wasn't the deal at the commission meeting. The deal was nothing was going to happen there until these reports were done by Durham. And you know what? They're using the excuse, we're just removing it. You know what happens when you move a backhoe into a big place like that and you start rumbling the ground and ripping things apart? Animals leave. And that's exactly what they're looking to do. You see, they want to go in there. So when they do the survey, they're going to say, there's nothing here. Of course there's nothing there, because you went in there with backhoes on the premise of removing invasive species, when on the BCC commission meeting, they said nothing was going to be taken in there, nothing was going to be taken out until these surveys were properly done. So this is just, I'm telling you, Dan, I never got into this political thing, but we are in a political cesspool right now. I am so fed up with what I'm seeing going on, and people need to be fed up, because I think I'm a firm believer that when the people lead, the leaders will follow, even though I use the term leaders very loosely here. Yes, they've gone in there. They're starting to dig. They've supposedly stopped now. It's going to be controlled by Durham, but I don't trust anybody anymore.
Okay, let's backtrack for a second, because the people who have been listening to this segment for a long time really love Ron Magill, and his cause is a pure one. He just wants to keep the animals safe. He is not interested in any of the angling and grifting that Miami people seem to always be doing around the power. So, Ron, given that you already made a mess at a city commission meeting where you were allowed to speak for only a minute, and developers paid in the audience were there to make sure that this happened, can you take us through the backstory for people who haven't been with us, what it is that you're trying to protect here and what people can do now to get behind you? Because you're saying you're going to need to lead here, Ron, because you're going to have to fly drones over that place again and again to make sure that these people aren't harming precious resources here in South Florida.
That's the bottom line. We had a golf course. A golf course was bought out by a potential developer. He bought it for $2.7 million, rock bottom price for 168 acres in prime Kendall habitat, and then wanted to get the covenant that was on that property lifted. This covenant forbade any kind of development. It was supposed to remain green space. But to get that covenant lifted, he had to have 75% of the people who had property right adjacent to that golf course agree to it. He offered them $50,000 a piece. They all said no. He took them to court. He lost when he sued them. But in the process of losing, it gave him the door to open up to have a confidential settlement, of which we found out, after not being so confidential, that some homeowners got paid up to $300,000 a piece to sign that covenant. So he got the covenant lifted. And I wanted to know, for the record, a lot of those people who signed the covenant to get it lifted and got the $300,000 have since sold their homes and gotten out of Dodge. Okay. So what you do is you had basically 100 plus people dictating what was going to be a community for well over 1,000 people or 1,000 homes. And this was just, to me, it looked like a bribe to me, but I guess it's legal. And then what happens is you have the big developer come in there, and he sold that property that he bought for $2.7 million once he got the covenant lifted for $32 million. Plus 35% interest in building this home development where they want to put 550 homes on this 168-acre golf course. Come on, guys. And I'm talking 550 single-family homes in a place that's so already congested. And this golf course is a rookery for birds. It's a habitat for life, for all kinds of wildlife. And this was brought up. Fish and Wildlife has already officially declared that rookery a rookery for threatened species of birds. So the whole thing came up in the BCC, the Board of County Commissioners, and they said, okay, we're going to approve this, but nothing can be done until all these surveys are done. And those were the promises that were made. And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, boom, they got a drone finding a backhoe buried in the center of this, ripping all the trees out and scaring anything that's over there away.
All right, what can we do though, Ron? What can we do? Because Daniela Levine Cava called you, and it's still happening. Like, it's already happening, and you shouldn't be out there with a drone that trying to govern the premises here just to prevent developers from breaking promises. Like, you shouldn't have to do that yourself. So what can the listeners do?
I really don't know. Get on social media, get with the board, the county committee. At the end of the day, this is where local elections really count, Dan. I hope all these people remember this, with the commissioners who voted for this. I must give respect to Mayor Cava, because she is not for this. I can tell you, she voted against it when she was a commissioner, but she knew there's no way she could get the votes. Doing a veto would have done nothing other than delay this further. So she knew she didn't have the votes there. Her fight is with the urban development boundary. The urban boundary development line. Okay, she knows she's got to fight these commissioners. She needs to win that war, because that's the kiss of death. If they start extending that boundary into the Everglades, this is just a small scab. I mean, it's huge to us who live in the community, and it's huge to this wildlife, but this is just a small battle. She knew she had to go on to fight this war, to win this war. Trust me, she's against this. She's sick about this. But she really didn't have a choice there. That's the way the politics work, and that's unfortunate. But people need to vote, man. I got to tell you, Dan, it sounds so cliche-ish and so. I hate politics. It's such a cesspool. But I'm going to be out there making sure I vote against everybody who voted for this thing.
Greg, what do you have for Ron Magill?
Ron, I'm fascinated by the idea of celebration and mourning at a zoo, births and deaths, because it's a big family, it's a community. And I know you all just had to say goodbye to a 27-year-old ostrich named Red. It was a mystery at the time. Do you know now what happened?
We don't. He had a couple of lesions on some of the organs that were very small. It didn't seem anything critical. Those were sent out for what we call histopaths, but those tests take weeks to come back, and we haven't gotten those tests back. Now, keep in mind, a 27-year-old ostrich is a pretty old ostrich. So, he was not by any stretch of the imagination in the prime of his life anymore. He was a senior citizen as an ostrich goes. The thing is, and I say this with affection, guys, because I don't want Dan saying I'm saying the ostriches are stupid.
They're pea-brain. Pea-brain. They got no brains.
No. Their eye is bigger than their brain. Okay, it's one of the few animals on the planet where the eye is bigger than the brain. They are not the brightest bulbs in a chandelier, but Red had character. He had a great personality. He had all kinds of antics. He loved his keepers. As a matter of fact, he would court the keepers all the time. You'd hear him go out there. He did this booming sound when he gets in the reproductive mood. He goes, whoom, whoom. Whoom, and he inflates his throat. And then when the keeper got in front of him, he get in front of the keeper and he does this thing with his wings and he goes back and forth. He's dancing to her. He says, please, please be my mate. And he does this thing. And you can't help but fall in love with an animal that shows you that kind of affection. Again, not the sharpest tool in the shed, but this bird had character. We had him here for many years, here since 1996. He built a big following. So anytime you lose an animal like that, especially, it has a profound effect on the people who are privileged to care for him.
Give us the facts that we need to know about the ostrich beyond the brain. Like, what's interesting about an ostrich? How dangerous? An ostrich is not like a cassowary. An ostrich cannot disembowel you, or can it?
Oh, yes, it can. Yes, it can. It's not as aggressive as a cassowary, but it is the largest bird in the world. It's a flightless bird, but it has a huge claw also in the middle part of its foot that it will come at you with. I've seen it do that to several animals. The thing about the ostrich is unique. There's a lot of myths around ostrich. First of all, it produces the largest egg in the world. So it is really the largest single cell on Earth. Is an ostrich egg, okay? Now, the good thing about ostriches, they lay their eggs, of course, on the ground because they're flightless, but they don't bury their head in the sand like so many people think. What they do is, when they sit on their eggs, they put their neck down along the dirt so they don't have the classic outline of an ostrich laying down there, because ostrich is like a big chicken to animals like a lion or leopard or animals like that want to have some food. So they don't want to draw attention to where they're sitting. And more importantly, they don't want to draw attention to where their eggs are at. So that's why they just put their neck down so it just looks like a boulder sitting on the eggs. The male is the one that's the black feathers, and he's got the neck that can turn bright red during courtship. The female is kind of gray, kind of blasé looking, because she's got to blend in when she's sitting on that nest. Very fast birds. They can approach 40 miles an hour running. So they're incredibly fast. They might not be able to fly, but they're really fast. Ostrich meat was for a long time considered the next white meat. There are a lot of people who tried to raise them here in the States. They started ostrich farms, but they were epic failures. It was too expensive to try to keep them as healthy as they needed to be to raise that for the next meat. But they do use ostrich skin. I'm sure people have seen the ostrich skin boots and things like that. They're very popular that way. And of course, ostrich feathers are the original feather duster.
Did you say that you have seen an ostrich kill with its talon or attempt to threaten with its talon?
I didn't see it kill, even though I wouldn't be surprised if the animal died. It was a hyena that was going after an ostrich. And that ostrich ran and just hit it, and it cut it. It wasn't a huge cut, but the hyena, collapsed. It did eventually get up and limp away, but I would not be surprised if that hyena later died from internal injuries.
When you say that the ostrich shows you affection, what would you say is the animal that melts you the most with its affection? I know you had that kind of relationship with your dog, but at the zoo, not with a pet, just something that gives you such an affection, or a species that's so affectionate that it would melt anybody.
It's this one chimpanzee named Samantha. She's 51 years old. She really doesn't like most people at all, but for whatever reason, she loves me. And every time I see her, I call her, and I do a hoot panic. And she does that back. And she pants back, and she hugs herself, and she looks at me, and she just is so happy. And when I go see her behind the scenes, she'll back up to me so I can groom her, and that's a very complimentary thing that a primate does when they back up so that you can groom them. It's something that's very socially bonding for the animal. That's special to me because, like I said, she doesn't like most people, but for whatever reason, she likes me. As a matter of fact, she was gravely ill a year or so ago, and she was so depressed and so down that the veterinarians actually called me to see if I could go back there to see her. And when she saw me, she livened right up. She and she got, and she recovered from her illness. And they said it had a lot to do with her mental state of mind, which I'd like to believe I helped contribute to improve.
You saved it, is what you're saying. Yeah.
I'm not saying I saved it. I'm saying I made her feel better and gave her a reason to feel better.
That's pretty cool, though. Were you going to visit every day, or how were you doing that? I hadn't heard you tell that story before, and it's a cool story. I will not make fun of that, because Ron, you do some things here at the zoo where your love for these animals is real. The connection is real. There are emotions in it for you. You are burying more of them that you had relationships with because you've been at the zoo for a long time. And so I can't even imagine. I can't believe that you hadn't mentioned Samantha before now, or that relationship.
Well, Samantha is a very special chimp. There's no question about it. And I did visit her often. As a matter of fact, when she was feeling down and I had to go out of town, I was traveling, there's a life-size cutout of me here on zoo grounds that they actually put behind her exhibit, and she would sit there and just look at it. Okay. So it's one of these things where, listen, I don't want to give the wrong impression. All animals don't love me. The female tigress hates me with a passion. She sees me and she wants to kill me instantaneously. So I'm not like Mr. Likeable. I don't want to come across this image of, oh, Ron's like everybody's happy animal. No. There are some animals here that absolutely despise me, but there are some that for whatever reason really like me too.
Ron, there was a crazy story. A dog in Saginaw, Michigan, I'm certain that you read about this, was in unlivable conditions in its backyard. Wood fell on the dog. The dog had to chew off its own leg to get untangled. And a lot of people are outraged. A, they're helping the dog online, but B, they think the owners of the dog should face some sort of penalty, possibly even jail time. Do you agree?
I do agree, Stugotz. I mean, listen, that's not to say there should be jail time for a lot of things there isn't jail time for, but cruelty to animals, especially that kind of cruelty, when you look at an animal that, and the thing that's amazing, Stugotz, is I bet you that those same people who treated that dog that way, When those people came out to see the dog would come to him wagging the tail, so happy to see them. This is the thing that's so wonderful about animals, especially things like dogs, these domesticated animals that give you unconditional love. Even when you abuse them, even when you're just so careless of the way you care for them, they still come to you. You know, you ever have a bad day, come home to your dog, and no matter how bad your day was, whatever bad mood, that dog is so happy to see you. Even though he may have been alone all day, he doesn't hold that against you because you left him alone. He's just happy to see you. We need to be more like dogs. There's that old saying is, I wish I could be the person my dog thinks I am.
Roy, what do you have for Ron Magill?
Ron, at Yellowstone, the national park is planning on relocating, slaughtering, and upping the hunting on 900 bison because there's a bacterial disease spreading throughout the population. Is that the right way to go? Is that normal?
And, you know, unfortunately it is. It's kind of like almost a triage approach. You've got to go in there and stop this infection. It's almost like a cancer, Roy. And that's hard for me to put. You know, it's like, you know, if somebody has a cancer in their leg and they say, listen, we're going to have to amputate your leg to save the rest of your body. These types of diseases, hoof and mouth disease, can spread through a park like a plague and wipe out an entire population. So they need to excise that population as quickly as possible. I know it sounds horrible, and it is by no means something that makes me happy or I feel good about, but I understand why it has to be done. Again, the best analogy I can give you is that, you know, you have cancer and it's a part of your body that has to be removed to save the rest of your body.
He is a bit of a modern day Tarzan. He has relationships and a fluency with these animals that is super unusual. If you want to help him conserve and protect the animal kingdom that he so loves and cares for, his endowment, his substantive endowment, you can give to it. I know, Ron, that they continue to, every time you see me, every time you tell me somebody else from our audience is moved by the amount of time you've been doing this for us, and they want to help you help the animals because that help is real.
I want to tell you something. Just today, Dan, I got a donation from somebody who donated $50, and they said, I am sorry that it's so minimal, but I wanted you to know that it's what I can afford right now, and I wanted you to know it is a fraction of what I want to give you for the joy that you give me and my daughter, who love listening to you about animals. And I can tell you something, Dan, it brought tears to my eyes because, you know, for a father to send something and tell me that his daughter is really moved by it, that means more to me than any of the money, the dollar sign itself. It's the thought of people just becoming connected to wildlife, beginning to care about wildlife. And I can tell you something, I have never in my 42 years, and I'm not saying this to be patronizing, experienced anything like I do in the LeBatard listeners. This is truly an army of people across the country that have moved me beyond words.
That is sincere from him.
I just got goosebumps.
Yeah.
But
watching Mario Cristobal's press conference.
You're watching it right now. All right, Ron. Good talking to you. We gotta go. We gotta all run to the television.
Oh,
see you
go
later,
you,
Ron.
baby. Go you. Take care, guys.
The thing is, Witty doesn't even look like he's doing a punishment. It looks like he just has a lunch after the show today.
Exactly.
It does. I feel like that's Witty all the time, that look.
I will tell the audience, if you are just an audio experience with us, that Witty does look great, and he's the only one who could pull off this particular look. If you don't know, I think some people might not know what Peaky Blinders is, so they might not know the time. How else would you describe how you're dressed today?
Normal.
Yes, this is the thing with him. It's not that far off from the norm.
Would you say it's pre-World War I, that look?
Well, it's meant to be 1920s.
Yeah,
so
okay, that's about right.
It's a three-piece suit. Got the waistcoat on. Love putting the waistcoat on this morning.
I would say that with the hat and everything else, you look like one of the Untouchables. Like, if not for the bow tie, like
He does
you look,
Elliot Ness,
like you could absolutely pull off an Elliot Ness type of. I'm a 1920s Law and Order guy,
right?
And I do it a little differently. I do it by being dressed to the nines. It's a little Miller's Crossing.
You're right. That is exactly how Sean Connery dressed in the movie version of The Untouchables.
But you're pulling it off, is what I'm saying, Witty. All of us are like, didn't you get on an elevator earlier today and nobody said anything to you? They just thought you were dressed here at the Clevelander? At the Clevelander.
In my apartment building, I went to the elevator this morning thinking someone's going to have to ask me about this because it's patently absurd. It's 7:15 in the morning. But I live in a beach community, and like most people are like getting ready to go to the beach in the morning. And so I get on the elevator, and the guy, I'm waiting. I'm like, what sarcastic comment is he going to say?
It's the hat too, though. It's not just 3-piece suit. It's not just that there's something specific about the hat. I don't know what that hat is called. My grandfather wore a hat like that.
He looks like Moonlight Graham.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's an excellent reference.
That's not a chatty time of day, though. You're not going to get someone in an elevator talking about your outfit before 8 a.m.
But I walk out. First off, I have to go back to my apartment because the bow tie that I originally had fell apart. So I had to go and get the actual bow tie that I own.
Right.
Then I come back outside and someone has taken their dog out to pee, and again makes eye contact with me. Nothing. And I'm like, are people expecting in the morning for someone to be wearing a cap and a timepiece that is attached by hook to the top button of my waistcoat?
Where did you get the timepiece? It's just a commitment to costume there.
I just had to go into my storage. It was lying there.
I believe that hat is called a derby.
Oh, a derby. Okay, thank you, Roy.
Derby.
A derby. So it's not a derby, it's a derby.
A derby, yeah.
That's how
Dorky.
Derby. That's how the English pronounce derby.
Whittingham was
Told you, he identifies as a 55-year-old Englishman.
It's so fascinating. It is so strange. Like, you would absolutely right now, Whittingham, you would be a Lothario right now in London in the old woman circuit. You would be crushing it as a guy who would get away with all manner of fraud as a boy toy who gives off 59 years old.
The senior tour.
You'd be killing it. You would be a gigolo right now in a certain time in London if you were capable of accessing this portion of your sexuality.
The part where I pick up old women?
Yes. You're the inspector from Scotland Yard.
Go on cruises, single, dressed like this.
You should. You absolutely should.
You know what? I think that should absolutely be a grid of death punishment that you should have to. One of your punishments should be just we videotape Witty hitting on an old woman.
Go to like a bingo hall or something.
I like it. Go to a Temptations concert.
Go to the concert that Craig was at last night. Is what I
Witty
was
and my
gonna
dad
say.
hitting the town would be funny together.
But Witty, I wanted to ask you because this did not strike me. The Dr. Pepper halftime football promotion, I believe, no matter what your opinions are right now as I present it to you, I will present it as one of the great sponsor promotions in the history of sports, because you know what I'm talking about right now. And if it's on, I will stop there to watch people throw footballs dumbly into a little Dr. Pepper thing with some pressure. I'm getting my halftime stakes in because I'm watching.
You'd gamble on it if you could.
If I could, I would.
I think you can, actually.
Yeah, and so this thing is one of the great advertisements in sports of all time. But I was appalled the other day, and it was for a different reason than Whittingham was appalled. We had different reasons to be appalled by this Dr. Pepper sponsored thing. Mine was the woman had just gotten engaged, and I thought that was a tacky way to do it. The woman who was throwing footballs had just gotten engaged on the field, and I'm just sort of like, really? Sponsored by Dr. Pepper? Halftime on? I totally judged.
Sponsoring engagement.
I judged the romance in that, but that's not what Witty was judging.
Yeah, for me, this changed, I would say, 3 or 4 years ago. There was one innovator who, while everyone was throwing footballs the traditional way, decided, I'm going to chest pass my way into $100,000 in scholastic money. And that innovator has changed the game more than Daryl Morey has changed the NBA with the corner three and taking threes, and for the worse. Because I do not turn on the Dr. Pepper halftime challenge to see people chest pass footballs. This is a technique that needs to be banned. It needs to be traditional football throwing. You got to chuck a spiral 10 yards into a hole.
Change the rules, and he's right about this.
Yes.
Fancy Lad is totally right. I think everybody would get behind that. You need to throw the ball like a football, not a basketball.
With a throwing motion.
I would disagree. I would say just get the job done. It doesn't matter how you get it done. Just get it through that little hoop, get it into the bucket, and that's it. Like, Dan, would you care if, your quarterback, big spot, didn't throw it like a football? He had to throw it underhand to get it into the end zone? No, you wouldn't care.
To Stugotz's point, this is maybe more on the Dr. Pepper challenge. Maybe move it back 5 yards.
Yep.
Because then the chest pass is a little more difficult.
No, we like all the time we make sporting event decisions and rule changes on the basis of entertainment. The entertainment value is reduced by watching two people chest pass for 60 seconds.
He's so right about this.
I'm cool with him ruling on this, by the way.
Chris, no, you're scared of him. You're scared of him.
It's the most I've ever been scared of him.
He said to you no, and you whimpered and skirted away like a dog that had been punished because he said no. For some reason, Whittingham, deeply in character as an old London Lothario, all of a sudden has all his confidence and is like, I care deeply about this one thing. And this
He's
one
got
thing.
his confidence clothes on, Dan.
And he's right. I don't
It's
leave.
all day. It's all day. It starts with the Big 12. We go to the SEC. It's the ACC at night. I got 11 hours of watching people chest pass. Not having it.
He's so right about this, though.
What does you not having it look like?
Not having it. I'm looking at television. I'm doing the dismissive hand wave, like, get out of here with this. And I turn away from the television.
So nice.
That's you. That is absolutely the height of you not having it. If that were a superhero, it would be the disgust with the back of the hand. I'm not going to watch this. I'm going to turn away. I will keep my dignity. You're not doing this correctly. Throw it, God damn it, overhand. No chest passes.
Get a spiral in there. Let's go.
Dr. Pepper, if you want to do this, if you're so keen about this, fine. Do it during the NBA All-Star game. Make a chest pass Dr. Pepper challenge and get out of college football. Make a decision, Dr. Pepper, one or the other.
Yeah, I mean, that's the skills challenge. We've done the skills challenge. It is no longer that. It is time for Dr. Pepper to bring the football back to a football competition.
Yes.
Because it ceases to be football.
Yes,
You're holding
damn
a piece
right.
of pigskin,
That's
but it's
right.
not football.
It's not football. It's not. He's so right about this. I feel like you have now created a position, even in the subjective world of we can
Playing
argue.
Papa Shot. I mean, that's what they're doing. They're playing Papa Shot.
In the subjective world of takes can't be right. What are you laughing about, Greg?
Okay?
Witty is
How mad,
genuinely
angry.
outraged. I'm looking at his face, and this is not a man acting.
It's a weird thing to be outraged.
Genuinely
He's
outraged.
righteously pissed off and should be because
It's a load of rubbish, Dan.
he's totally in the right. There is no arguing the other side of this.
Rubbish.
Let's go, Dr. Pepper. If the Dan LeBatard show with Stugotz can get Mario Cristobal hired because Mike Ryan decided he was going to be the change that he wanted, why can't Witty use that power to shame Dr. Pepper? You already got it. We said it. You got one of the great promotions of all time in sports. We talk about your stupid thing. We'll tune in. We'll support Dr. Pepper and all your fan worlds and everything else because we like this halftime
Van
challenge.
Bill.
Whatever.
That's a
We'll
fine.
we'll support all the Dr. Pepper stuff because you are liquidy, syrupy goodness that's got a little spice, a little tang to it.
Coke with spice.
Yes. Put it on the poll at LeBatard Show. Is Dr. Pepper just Coke with spice? Baby, because Greg Cote's sex life is Coke and spice.
Spice in it.
We're fixing this bollocks, Dan.
Damn right.
It is bollocks as it stands right now.
Yeah.
I'm
Dr.
gonna
Pepper is guilty of malpractice.
I'm going to become a golden doctor after the show. Donate at the level one needs to become a golden doctor.
No!
I'm going to make some calls.
He's swigging his water.
Victory swig.
Yeah, it's not water.
That's coffee, dude.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
What did you think was good about that joke? Let's examine it. Deconstruct it.
Well, a doctor has certain standards to uphold. If you betray those standards, you can be found guilty of malpractice. Why should Dr. Pepper be any different?
Exactly right.
Am I right?
Yes.
Thank you, Roy.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
and we're all going to give it to him. Thank you very much. Go Canes.
Yeah, Coach.
Rousing.
Good to have you.
Rousing
Look at
introductory.
that. You guys, I think we aired, and forgive us for airing because we were trying to figure out in real time whether we should go in and out of the Mario Cristobal press conference, making fun of it, doing show around it. But Mike was sort of longingly looking at the television because Mario Cristobal, Cuban Beefcake, is now running the University of Miami program and gave good coach speak press conference. If you're someone who believes in right now the U is back or wants to believe in it, and this guy will be a good voice and face for that. Okay, now I'm the CEO. Now I'm in charge. Miami's getting back into big time football. But we also know you're sick of it. We also know you're sick of us talking about it, not just this week or this month, but you're sick of us talking about it for the last 20 years and maybe the last 40, really, given that Schnellenberger started this in 83. But we understand that you are probably fed up by how Miami football obsessed this show has been over the last few weeks and probably few years because Mike's annoying. He's super annoying about this, and Miami fans are annoying. All across sports, people will tell you Miami fans are annoying, but he cared deeply about this program. He told you that he was spending money to be a booster for this program, and today has been a proud and happy day, and I wanted to make fun of the press conference as it was being aired, but Mike Ryan didn't think that we should do that.
I understand where the audience is coming from. That's why we've labeled things the way that we have. It's not to game some sort of Apple Podcast algorithm. It's just so you can skip things if you don't like it. And this was more about words for me. It's not just about hype and an annoying fandom. It's about drive. It's about power. We say hungry, we devour. Yeah.
It was kind of dismissed on PTI. I was watching yesterday. It just made their big finish, which is like the final minute where it's like the topics that were left over. And they asked Wilbon if this is a big deal. And he's just like, in Miami, but nationally, no one cares.
Get that guy out of here. That guy doesn't know anything about college football. And I'm still waiting for my apology on Sean Taylor, Wilbon. And I'm still waiting for my thank you for what I did for you at Sanford Bridge.
How about a thank you for Mario Cristobal? He thanked Kirk Herbstreit. I mean,
yeah, that was really cool. Actually, I told you it mattered a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, he said we should give Kirk Herbstreit a spot on this staff. He started something.
Well, if I may backtrack for a moment here and macro here, as Greg Cote, longtime Miami Herald columnist, who really we grew up in this town, Stugotz, this show and all of this. This program helped make that so. The things that we have done in the media that have been popular and polarizing started with a Miami program of Jimmy Johnson that was super controversial, that was the place that Greg Cote and I were really learning how to be interesting sports writers, writing about an interesting time, racially, culturally, generationally, in an interesting city. And what I would say to you about today, because I wish Mario and his brother Luis, who I recognize them not just because I covered them, I recognize them because I grew up with those dudes. Mm-hmm. Those guys were everywhere around me in my culture. Those two dudes, those brothers, the guys who are a little bit stronger than everyone else, a little more Cuban than everyone else, a little more Miami than anyone else, offensive lineman for the team that helped build this program, both of them, he and his brother. You remember Luis, his brother, who's more menacing than Mario was. These guys, basically, Cuban Will, Stugotz, these guys should not be big human beings. They had to eat extra. As soon as they left football, both of them just shrunk back to the Cuban people they were. They cared like that about making things good, eating 100 pounds worth of food, getting fat. And I want to tell the Cuban part of this story because that part is meaningful to Miami in a way that it would not be to Wilbon.
They put in the work, put in the hours, and they took what's theirs. The last rhyme would have worked out better if you were talking about me.
This does mean something to Cubans today, I would say, because the Cuban people made this happen from within the power structure of the University of Miami. And now we've got what's happening here with the Cristobals, Miami family, Miami royalty, just is the Cuban guy, and Manny Garcia was Cuban too. Manny Diaz, excuse me.
Did you grow up with a Manny Garcia?
Oh, of course I did. 4 of them.
Seriously.
and a couple of Manny Diaz's too.
Yeah, Manny Diaz was different. Number one, he went to FSU. He was a fan of the Miami program growing up. He didn't play at the school. I don't think he played college football at all, actually. And no, this is a guy that won 2 national titles here, was a part of the staff on other teams that won national titles. This is a true homecoming in ways that Manny Diaz never felt like.
And Greg, just so that you know, because a lot of former players were there, and Brian McKinney was there and blocked the camera shot, as he often does wherever it is that McKinney is walking. This was a celebration of a Cuban guy is now the CEO back in Miami in the big money game in his hometown with the school that he really loves. And no matter how much you dislike the machinations of the machinery. Oh, this guy's getting rich over here. He's not worth that much. Look at that guy leaving the kids in the cold to fly to Miami. That guy came here because of what Miami means to him, because of what growing up among Cubans means to him and how it shaped him, and because he wants to restore that program to what it was when he and his brother were playing for it.
And because of $8 million a year.
That too. That helps, but that Miami can get in that game is an announcement, Stugotz.
Yes, I agree.
Obviously, I'm not saying the money doesn't matter here. What matters is Miami being willing to pay him $8 million.
Yes.
Number one, he commands it, and the market kind of established that. But he needed to see if Miami would do that, not just with him, by the way, with his staff and with the additional resources.
Right. And for all of the reasons we're talking about, I think it's the biggest head coaching hire in school history, because let's not retrofit it. When Sam Jankovic hired Jimmy Johnson, the headline was Jimmy Who. Dennis Erickson was not the most coveted coach in the league when he came here. Certainly Larry Coker wasn't. Mario Cristobal, in addition to the Cuban heritage and all the rest, is at the peak of his powers right now as a 3-time Pac-12 finalist in a row. The recruiting reputation, I mean, it just feels like they've struck gold in a way that they hadn't before.
But the CEO, Stugotz, so that you understand the symbolism of this, right? That Jimmy Johnson came here and had an unusual relationship with the city. Howard Schnellenberger before him, okay? Howard Schnellenberger is the first coach, goes into the inner city, says, I'm going to mine this area, and wins a championship out of nowhere, makes Miami matter. People realize, oh my God, what fertile ground all of South Florida is for producing professional talent. Jimmy Johnson comes down here, has an unusual relationship with the black players, unusually strong, leans against the library. There's all sorts of friction. In the time that Cote and I are growing up covering this team, the most interesting collegiate thing, making America insanely mad, bumping against the library, because Jimmy Johnson's like, no, I got these black dudes, and I am going to run roughshod over all of this sport. And it horrified America, and the library didn't like it so much. The president of the university was scared of, why is this near my library? Miami blossoms as a school, all of a sudden is national in scope, coast to coast. The West Coast street is wearing Miami gear because of whatever you identify with that time. This is Cristobal's time. This is his brother's time. They were offensive linemen in these huddles where it was us against the world. Michael Irvin's in here fighting everybody. Glory days of all the Miami stuff.
And that was no accident. Jimmy recruited that. He didn't want angels on his team.
And the Cristobals fit into that. They blocked for that. They blocked for that time. They weren't good enough to do anything other than gain 100 pounds, eat, and go be the Cuban guys who just sort of are the bulls, and that's the best they can do. And grit and will your way to whatever it is. Cristobal just got done saying, they asked him about how long has he dreamed about this. He said, I don't have time to dream. I am too busy.
Preposterous.
Everyone dreams. I mean, come on.
He said, quote, I'm coffee laden.
I don't have time. I don't have time to dream.
I think my entire life might have been the answer they were looking for.
I mean, who doesn't have time to dream? I mean, you're basically saying you're awake 24 hours a day, because if you don't have time to dream, then you don't have time to sleep. What is that?
The 2015 National Recruiter of the Year doesn't have time to dream.
Sleep is for losers.
I'll sleep when I'm dead is the most useless cliche. I hate that expression so much. I mean, you're functionally useless when you don't sleep. You're more likely to die younger if you don't sleep. Like, so yeah, you'll sleep when you're dead.
Means by I'm going to pour myself into this job, all of it. He's all in.
Get a couple hours,
No, he's
Mario.
gonna-
It'll
no,
be
he's
good
gonna-
for you.
he's gonna
Be
kill
good for you.
himself
Have a
early.
dream. Yeah.
No, he's going to die young because of all the energy he is putting into this program, and I believe him. I do.
Can we address?
You want him to die young, Mike.
Can
Is that
we
what you're saying?
address?
Yeah.
Why would you do that to Mike? Why would you do that to Mike? Why? Like what?
I think
why
he
would
I
you?
think he would want
think
me
Mike's
to
enjoying
say.
it.
I think that's the answer Mario Cristobal would demand of me.
Yeah.
Live a
That
good life.
I would want him to die young for this program to succeed. That's the kind of guys we need around here.
Yes.
You need more of me.
He'll die on the championship parade float with a smile on his face.
Mike, I need to know where the line is because this has taken up too much of the show. People are, I'm sure
We're
that
at
they
the
are
end point.
recoiling. They're recoiling. Enough with Mario Cristobal. Do the wacky hijinks all over sports.
I would disagree with you guys. I think they are a national story. I think this does have national appeal. I think the reason Kirk Herbstreit said what he said is because college football is a better place when the University of Miami is good and relevant.
Why? Why is Mario Cristobal thanking Kirk Herbstreit? Let's get this final bit of petty out on this.
Well,
before.
I like that Kirk is getting. He had the biggest platform, but Kirk only said that because others finally got super engaged and said it so loudly and were frustrated. I think saying it on the biggest national sports podcast is a big deal. I think Barry Jackson writing about it was a big deal. Kirk Herbstreit's not just coming out off of that with the top of his dome. He was citing reports. He was citing stuff that we were saying here. Regardless, that's what got through.
But why? And this is the last bit of this for those of you that are annoyed by how thorough Mike Ryan has been getting out ahead of this story, which I am impressed by again and again, that he just came over to the insider business and got himself informed. And anyone listening to this is a show that cares deeply about Miami. I've been proud that we've been an information center amid all of the stupidity that we do every day. But
Dan,
why?
if I made the insider business thing, that was a byproduct of just getting super involved and trying to like really sincerely bring about change. I was sick of Billy Corbin telling me I wasn't going to do anything about it. Fuck you, Billy. I did something about it. And in the course of doing something about it, I made really good relationships. And then my reporting got better and better and my network expanded and I became an insider. But this started with wanting the best for the program, and that's the goal.
And it is a cool story to be able to watch you enjoy that you were the change. You helped instigate all of what you wanted, as Billy Corbin and I laughed in your face about they don't care like that. The program doesn't care like that. But I would ask you, as we talk about this as a story, ESPN did not credit you anywhere for the doing of this.
They never credit anybody. If a story breaks, you very rarely see if Shams wins the arms race to a tweet, and Woj confirms it a couple of minutes later, they'll credit Woj. They wait for their own reporters to verify reports and then run with their own guys. Bleacher Report was a little disappointing, but I understand ESPN's game, and I don't really give a shit about the credit. I really don't. I care about what happened today. I care that people got the message. I'm not in the insider game. I still have people feeding me information. I'll do with that what I will, but I'm not an insider. I just wanted what's best for the program I love. I didn't even go to school there.
You're getting to be an insider, though. We didn't even get at any point on any of the platforms, and we've certainly got enough of them right now. We didn't even get to your reporting on the Heat tampering charges.
It's stop calling it tampering. It's not tampering. Tampering is when you make contact directly to the player. They didn't do that. There was no evidence of that. In fact, the seeds of all of this happened during the trade deadline last year when they were considering parting with valuable assets, and they needed to find out if Kyle Lowry wanted to stay beyond the term of his contract. That's a big conversation. A lot goes into it. You obviously make contacts along the way, and I'm sure that's what happened there, but that's not tampering. And that is a Mike Ryan exclusive.
I want to go back to being just a Miami show.